This episode is brought to you by our lead sponsor, Furious Photog. Have you ever thought about being on a romance book cover? I never had until the opportunity arose. And now, as you can see, a few of my covers. There we go. There's Joe. Boom. And another one, finished strong. And I think I've sold, a shit ton of covers. Anyways, long story short, this is a great opportunity for you to join myself and hundreds of other guys that have become a part of a billion-dollar industry with one of the first and leading brands in the field. Furious is an amazing photographer. He'll make you look good. He'll get you out there, get you on covers, and bring you close to a really cool community. And you can make some really good money doing this as well. So if this is something that you're interested in, definitely check him out. Find out more info or book with him at his website at FuriousPhotog.com. That is FuriousPhotog.com. Or check out his IG at Furious Photog. Thank you. Ready to roll?
Yes, sir.
What is up, everybody? This is Joe Adams, and welcome to the Relentless Pursuit podcast. As always, we have my man Logan Hyder of Cinema 83 LLC in the house, our amazing co-host and producer. He does all the very important stuff.
What is up?
Yeah, definitely need him for. And today we have a very special guest. I don't even know how to really introduce you. I want to give you like some title. Do I say Mr. O?
Yeah, you say a Mr. Olympia because I'm not the only one.
Okay.
15th. As that.
Yeah. Mr. Olympia Brandon Curry.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
That works.
Hell yeah, man. Hell. And
I feel like an eagle should like fly over.
Yeah,
and
right?
Yeah,
there should be
graphics. Drop a dumbbell on my head.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, man. Well, Brandon, welcome, man. How you doing today?
Hey, not too bad, man. Not too bad.
Hell yeah. Thank you for coming in, man. It means a lot. For those that don't really know, we get a lot of people because we got such a variety of guests on here. You know, we get fitness industry people, we get, entrepreneurs in real estate, a little bit of everything. So for those that don't really understand, because there's a lot more to you, and we're going to get into that. You're not just a bodybuilder. You've got a lot going on. But, that's what you're known for on a massive scale. So explain to maybe just in simple terms, what is the Mr. Olympia?
Mr. Olympia is, we equate to the Super Bowl of bodybuilding.
I'm glad because that's what I've been telling people. Because like I was telling him that we needed you to explain this in simple terms because that's how I've been explaining it. I don't really even know,
Yeah, that's what we equate. It's the number one, the top bodybuilding show in the world as far as prestige and accolades. And then number two would be the Arnold Classic, which just happened last week. So
did you compete in that one last week?
No, I was supposed to go. It was 35th anniversary, but weather winds wouldn't allow me to catch my flights. They canceled both my flights and my flight rescheduled flight. They canceled that the next morning. So
you couldn't compete because of that?
It's not about I wasn't going to compete. I was just supposed to be on stage, and I was supposed to do a seminar the day after.
I mean, that still sucks.
Yeah, it's kind of it only happens every so often. So it's just like the 35th time they kind of get all the winners that are still alive together. Kind of, have them on stage, then we do some seminar stuff after. So it's kind of cool to see everybody because I did watch it, but I kind of missed it. But I figured, I missed it for, a reason I can't control.
Yeah, I mean, what are you going to do?
And my wife's birthday was Sunday, and that's the first time I've been home for my wife's birthday.
That worked out well.
In a while, huh?
Yeah, for a while. So she normally have to either go with me or travel, or I'm normally not even home to even celebrate with her. So
I want to dive into that too here in a little bit. That being said, how many times have you won the Arnold? I think.
I won the Mr. Olympia once, 2019, and then the Arnold I won in 2019 before I won that Mr. Olympia, and then I was actually the Arnold champion last year. And then if you include the other Arnolds, which is Brazil, I won the first Arnold Brazil, Arnold South America is known as today, and then I won Australia. I think Arnold Australia in 2017. Nice. So I won almost every one. I think they had one in South Africa that I didn't win, and one in Europe that I didn't win. But there's a questionable because they're, with the split, the IFBB Pro League split. So some of them are considered elite because Arnold, he didn't separate his business. He says, I'm not picking a side. I'm going to make money with whoever.
Yeah.
Which I don't blame him.
Yeah, not a bad idea.
So most of the ones under our organization, I've actually won, so.
Sweet, man. So now y'all know
I was just going to say before we get too far down the road. You were explaining Mr. Olympia, so kind of that and Arnold.
Well, Mr. Olympia right now has been 17 champions in I think it's over 50 years now. Basically, it's basically, you qualify. You have to qualify for the Olympia. It's not something you can just say I want to do.
Yeah.
Nowadays, modern day, you have to win a show in order to qualify. And then as of last year, they had the guys who accumulate the most points. The top 5 guys accumulated the most points. They got to participate. Well, last year was the biggest, I think, Mr. Olympia in years, like over 400 competitors. And that includes bikini, figure, women's physique, wellness, and then all the men's classes is men's physique, classic physique, bodybuilding, and 212, which is 212 and under bodybuilding.
Yeah.
So those are all the categories. So we had so many competitors. It was just a ridiculous amount of competitors. So they're going to scratch the qualification on points. So you'll have to legitimately have to win a show next year in order to participate.
Okay.
But when I first qualified for the Olympia, it was the top 3 in every show went to the Olympia. But the thing was, it wasn't that many shows back then. So we didn't have the overload of competitors. So that's how I first qualified in 2011. And 2011, my first Olympia, I was top 10. I was 8th. But it took me till, 2017 to get back in the top 10 again. From 2011.
It's just crazy because the game changes every year too.
The game changes. I was young. I came out hype, but then, life happens. So I'm bodybuilding and had a family start when my bodybuilding career started as well. And having children and having to be responsible. And it was kind of hard for me to find that balance to do both and do them both well. Yeah. So it took me a while to get my grips under me to do that. But the Mr. Olympia, one of the most coveted titles, but the Sandow is the trophy, which is Eugene Sandow, who was iconic figure back in the day for lifting, like more like strongman lifting. So if you look at the trophy, he has he's doing one of the old school
I know that
style
is.
of lifts.
Yeah,
about to take it over the head.
Gotcha.
So that is actually a trophy. It's a bronze trophy. It's probably over 30 pounds. It's a nice, solid trophy. And we got the bigger ones in modern day. And now they have every winner on the actual trophy.
Hell yeah.
So the one I have doesn't have my name on it. So that's why I want to win again. So I at least have one.
So you get one with your name on
But
it.
the ones now do have your name on it.
Yeah, the ones do. So after you win, they put your name on it.
You would
That's
think
awesome.
that they'd have somebody back there ready to engrave the trophy.
That's kind of
like some professional that's like, oh shit, Brandon won.
Yeah.
I think it just takes so long for them to even do the trophy.
Okay.
That they just don't, and it's a solid trophy. I couldn't imagine. There's so much chaos going on in that show backstage in general. Just to find a space for somebody to even do that, it would be difficult. And apparently, it comes with a case.
Ooh.
But I've never seen this case.
Well, are you supposed to get a case?
Well, they say they're supposed to give you a case after you win, so you can have some easy way to carry it around and tote it around. You don't have to carry this pretty heavy trophy, but that case has never been found, and I've never seen one. So
It reminds me of.
Hey, somebody get Brandon his case now. This is mess up.
No doubt. That kind of reminds me of, which is a cool thing. It's like, I think it's the WBC does it, and the UFC does a version of it, but not with their old champions. But the WBC belt, which is the green boxing champion belt. There's a million different belts, but the green one is the one that people would probably recognize. But it has pictures of old champions around it, which I think is awesome because if you win a championship now, you have like Muhammad Ali, Floyd Mayweather. You got champions on there. So
it's a really sweet idea because the trophy actually used to be smaller. So Lee Haney, Ronnie Coleman, they won 8 of those titles. But that trophy is like miniature. It's like this small compared to my trophy. It's like that big.
Dang.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So Mr. Olympia is the Super Bowl of bodybuilding.
Super Bowl of bodybuilding.
And you won that.
So it's safe to say that you were one of the greatest bodybuilders of all time.
In this era.
There we go.
In this era, I won't say and that's the thing. It was a big dispute after I won because I started getting criticized by some other Mr. Olympias and stuff. So that made it really cool because
that happens, right?
when you get criticized by greatness,
yeah, exactly.
it's kind of like a compliment
Your
You know
idols
what I'm saying?
become your rivals.
Yeah, because some of the guys are still competitive, and you know how the nostalgia kicks in, and everybody thinks their era is better than the new era. So that always comes into play,
Of course.
So when I know you know Patrick McDavid,
I do. That's
Valuetainment.
That's who. Whenever I was mentioning on a podcast earlier, that's who I was talking about.
Yeah, so I went on there because he had
If I saw him, I'd probably know him.
Valuetainment. You probably,
if you saw him, you would definitely know him, and you would love him.
Yeah, he's a Persian guy. U.S. military also. I think Army. Yeah, Army. Yeah. So he actually spent some time in Nashville because I don't know if it was a school. I think maybe for school he was in Nashville for a little bit.
Cool dude.
Because when I came to visit him, he said, "Man, you ever been to the Mix Factory?" And I'm like, "Mix Factory, man, that's way back in the day.
Yeah.
That's like a club spot in Nashville, 2nd Avenue, had multiple levels back in the day. So I used to party there. So
So you said you visited with him?
yeah, actually, it was on one of the shows.
Oh, really?
The only reason I was on there because he had Dorian Yates. I don't know if you know Dorian Yates, right?
Yeah, Dorian Yates.
Dorian Yates was on there, and he asked Dorian Yates about, it was the same year I'd won. So he pulled up pictures, asked him about what he thought about my opinion of my physique or whatnot. And Dorian, he's pretty critical. So it's pretty much how I know him to be. And I had met Dorian, I spent time with Dorian. So I kind of know how Dorian is. So I didn't get offended about it at all. But I was like, it was kind of complimentary to me. Because
you're under there. At the end of the day, like you're under there. You're in their view now.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, he's reached that level with us. So and they're criticized. Yeah, I could kind of see that being.
The idols become your rivals.
Right.
That's a good goal.
So better than them not knowing who you are.
Exactly.
Exactly.
That's the thing.
It'd be like Patrick Bet-David breaking down our podcast and being critical of it. It'd be like, hey, at least he's talking about us.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's exactly the equivalent.
Your name's always going to be up there alongside all these guys.
You know that saying? It's like, say whatever you want about me. Make sure you spell my name right, though.
So
if someone jacks up Joe, I'm gonna be pissed.
Yeah, right. Joe Adams.
But yeah, that's the kind of thing. Like so me winning, it was been the peak of my career so far. Of course, I'm not retired yet. I'm not done.
Sweet.
But it's one of those things
That's what I was about to ask. So you going for that new trophy now?
Yeah, I want my name on it. Like I said, it's been Big Ramy has kept me from that for it's been a couple of years now. And now
who is that?
Big Ramy, who won it after me. He took the title after me. 2020, 2021. And what year is this? It's 2023, right?
23, yeah.
So 2022, we actually had a new champion in Hadi Shutban, which is our first Iranian Mr. Olympia champion.
Okay.
So that means Big Ramy's a little bit out the way, and I've beat Hani. Not Hani, but Hani is the coach. I should say that. I beat Hadi, before, so I think that's very doable again. So I get my stuff together.
What age are you?
I am 40. I'm 40 years.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, not to ask an awkward question, but do you get to a point where that's where the age becomes a factor?
It used to be bodybuilders were kind of young in the era, in the era. So a lot of bodybuilders, about the time they were, 30s, mid 30s, they were done. But in this era of bodybuilding, guys compete for a longer time. Like Dexter Jackson just retired a couple years ago. He was in his 50s.
Yeah, Dexter's been around a bit.
He's the most winningest bodybuilder of all time. He's won the most titles ever. So I don't think it'd ever be duplicated. He was also Mr. Olympia and a multiple Arnold champion winner. And it took me a while. Like, he was my goal. It was my goal. He's my barometer. So I always wanted to beat him. If I beat him, then I knew I'd accomplish something, right? But this guy just never fell off. It took me forever to beat him.
You're like, damn it, Dexter, slow down.
And then when I placed ahead of him, I think it was in 2018 or whatever, and I walk off stage and I go backstage. He looks at me, he says, "It's about time."
Damn.
I was laughing.
You're like, yes. Hell yeah.
But that's how competitive he is.
Yeah, I was gonna say he made sure he got that in there.
Yeah. He gave it to me. Even the next year, he thought he was in the judging. For the prejudge, he thought they was going to put ahead of me because they switched us around.
Yeah.
And he looked at me, he said, look at that, man. You thought you had me. And then next thing you know, they switched us back. And I said, well, I think they just wanted to make you feel good.
Yeah. Trying to boost his ego a little bit. It's like, you're getting old. We got to make you happy, right? Exactly. That's funny, man. So when did you start bodybuilding?
Well, I started, I think it was, 2002, 2003.
Okay.
Basically, I was in college, MTSU. I had
homegrown baby, homegrown champ.
I just decided, I didn't want to play college football anymore. Me me being, I'll just be honest, me being young, kind of immature, don't want to wait to play, and not feeling like I was done justice in a lot of ways. I was like, I'm done. I couldn't do the school thing, the football thing, and try to balance. I was like, I'm done. I'm not gonna waste my time. So,
but young and just like,
do you want to roll? I was gonna say, you want to roll that back while he's talking about it. We're talking about the childhood and that time period. He was talking about how you got into bodybuilding, but we're kind of working our way into your story. But that's a good entry point.
I am curious, like before that.
Yeah. So like he brought up football. He brought up being kind of like
so I was asking how long, and like I want to get into all this, but I want to know before bodybuilding, like, you know, a little bit about your childhood and your upbringing, like things that influenced you, that you learned, that kind of set you on the path, and then into MTSU.
Okay, well, I was born in you know, when they were really pushing the masculine image, the muscular image. He-Mans, G.I. Joes were muscular. All action figures had muscles.
We're cool as shit, yeah.
Yeah, we had, you know, Arnold Schwarzenegger on TV. We had Sylvester Stallone, you know. So I grew up watching all those movies and all those icons. And you know, all I knew, I wanted to have muscles. So when I watch those movies, I see those guys working out and training. So I take my time while I'm watching the movie and do my sit-ups, do my push-ups, and, you know, it's just motivating for me. I'm getting the workout in, you know, just doing things. But one of the things I noticed over when I was young is everybody talking about, they was always compliment me or talk about my muscles. So I remember one of my first experiences was at a party. It was a pool party. I was there with my older cousin, and he was taking me around the pool party and making me show everybody my abs. So I was thinking, okay, and I was really young. I was probably maybe 5 or younger.
So at that time, you're just like, you're all amped up.
Yeah, and then I think it was around 5 or 6 as well. I had asked my parents for weights. They wanted to, you know, they wanted what I wanted. I wanted weights, so they bought me the Hulk Hogan sand dumbbells with the crush grippers and the jump rope.
Yeah,
that little, and I've seen that recently, so I remember it clearly now.
Oh yeah,
they still have them. People still have them in the package, which is really cool. But, you know, Hulkamania, eat your vitamins, all that kind of stuff. I was into it, so I trained with those till they got too light. And I was always, you know, kind of athletic, so I was diagnosed, I guess, with ADD as a kid as well. My parents didn't want to give me medication. They didn't believe in that. So they put me in activity. So around 3 or so, they put me in gymnastics. So I was, you know, using my body. They wanted to just keep me busy because I was busy. I was just hyper. I was a boy.
Yeah.
And it was probably that I had any real issues. I was just a boy. I didn't want to sit still. I was a smart kid, but I just I wanted to do a lot. So they got me involved in gymnastics, and then, you know, my dad worked a lot. He worked night shift for Nissan at the plant.
Okay.
My mom was, she was a stay-at-home mom pretty much. And I had 2 younger sisters eventually as well. So I was always busy as doing all the boy stuff. And then, let's see. From there, I think I kind of grew, and I was kind of always known for being a little bit more muscular than everybody else. And by the time I was 14, my parents got me a full, like, you know, those Joe Eater kind of sand weights, benches in the I know what you're talking
about, like the plastic one.
Yeah, plastic weights with the sand and the barbell, the bench press, and the leg extension. You know, so I had one of those in my room, and I would be in there training. So I was 14. I was in there.
I see those on Facebook Marketplace sometimes.
Yeah, I was in there training. I was training. I was doing all I can with equipment, and I made little dumbbells and put the clips on, and, you know, I was just doing everything I could with those.
So you had a passion for it pretty early on.
Yeah, I just loved to train. I mean, and it wasn't about bodybuilding because I didn't really know much about bodybuilding.
There wasn't like a competition you were training for. You just loved the training.
I just like muscles, and, you know, I like being strong. So.
Yeah.
How was school?
School, I was always a smart kid. I didn't really have any problems in school. You know, I was just you know, one of those kids that always, you know, was always competitive with everybody. You know, I wanted to be the fastest. I wanted to be the strongest. You know, PE was the best time of the day for me. You know, you know, one of those kids.
Yeah.
So it's like anybody that was, you know, able to be competitive with me and was in the same things with me, they would be my friend.
Hell yeah.
And we would, we would push each other, have fun, and challenge each other. And sometimes we may get into it, and then we laugh after. I remember one of my friends, we got into a fight in class, and we was wrestling around. And we both got in trouble. We got a paddling, and then we walked back in class, and we laugh. We laugh after, like,
Yeah.
Because it's just us being boys. And back then, boys were just boys, and I was just an all boy.
And you could get a paddling, and it was,
And as long as they didn't tell my mom, I was good. I remember one time I got a paddling, and my mom didn't know. Nobody told my mom. And then the baddest girl in my class happened to say, Brandon got a paddling today, when she saw my mom walk by, and I was like,
dang.
oh.
Threw you under the bus.
Yeah. So I was gonna get it at home too. after. So I was like, you little, So, but it was just I was just a boy, and I just I just love things that challenged me. So I didn't really get into sports
That's what I was about to ask,
until I was in middle school.
Okay.
So you hadn't played football at all until then?
No, because I did gymnastics till off and on in between till I was like 12. And
I think that's pretty interesting.
And with the gymnastics thing is like, I got to a certain size physically to where
you just couldn't.
They couldn't teach me anything because they couldn't throw me around. I was like,
they're trying to help you, dude.
I remember the first day they was like backflips, turn a backflip. I was like, oh, I want to do a backflip. I just do a backflip, and I was just risky.
Yeah,
I was just taking risks. It always was ingrained in me. I had some cousins that influenced me as well. They were on my dad's side. He had like all boys, my great uncle. And they came to my house one time, and they were doing all these acrobatics, and they trained in martial arts, and they were musicians, and they put me to bed, and they wanted to show my parents some things. So I snuck out peeking, and they had these swords, they had these ninja stars and these scythes.
They were really good.
Yeah. And I was like, I want to be, so to impress those guys when I seen them, I was just turning front flips and landing on my back. Turning front flips and landing on my back just to be like those guys.
Yeah.
By the end of that day, I had a headache out of this world because I kept landing on my back. But I just wanted to. I was like, I want to be like them, not knowing later in life. After I got out of high school, I visited their dad, who lived in the neighborhood with me, and he was a welder. And he had a whole. If I would have known this, I would have been in his house all the time. He had a whole gym in his backyard of equipment he built.
Damn, heaven was there. Heaven was there.
They were hiding it away.
Yeah, he was well. Because I was wondering why all his sons were so muscular.
Yeah,
and then come to find out when my great grandmother died, she had some black and white photos of him, and he was this guy from Tennessee, far away from the West Coast, was into bodybuilding, posing and everything. And I was like, damn, I had no clue. So it was there. But I had this disconnection with it this whole time. Yeah. So by the time I got in middle school, I started playing football.
As always, this episode is brought to you by Relentless Pursuit. Please go check us out at relentlesspursuitlifestyle.com for all the apparel. We'd love the support. Also, check out our Instagram at relentless_. Wait, yeah, shit. Damn, I always mess this up. At relentless_pursuit. And for the headquarters stuff, Relentless Pursuit _HQ. Be sure to check us out on all platforms, YouTube, Spotify, you name it. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, review, help us get this going, keep it rolling, and stay consistent.
You can find me on Instagram at Brandon_Curry. Also, YouTube at Brandon Curry All Access. But that's pretty much it. That's good. Or you can come check me out, maybe see me at the gym at Carbon Culture.
This episode is brought to you by Elite Medical Aesthetics. Elite Medical Aesthetics has a primary focus on men's health, such as hormone replacement, performance optimization, and stuff like that. Sean offers services such as rejuvenation and PRP, which I've gotten. It's something where they spin the blood up and they re-inject it back into you. Long story short, it speeds up recovery in specific areas. It's helped my knee a ton and helped my recovery. Some other services he offers is Botox, laser hair removal, and scar treatment. And I do want to mention that soon he will be offering stem cell injections, which is awesome and something I want to be able to do one of these days with all my injuries. That being said, you can find more of a full range of services on the website, and that will be at eliteaestheticstn.com. Or check them out and on IG at Elite Aesthetics TN. Thank you.
Well, I always wanted to play football. I had cousins that played in Little League, but my dad was always quite busy working, so he didn't get to give me the practice. And my mom, she didn't she wasn't really driving a lot back then, even though she had a license. But I think we only had one vehicle. So
Okay.
my dad was taking that, so she couldn't get me to practices. But I always wanted to play. I was really aggressive. I needed to channel that. But so in middle school, I was great. It was great. It was fun. It was football. It was everything I thought it was going to be. It was just aggressive and just let me get all my issues out.
Yeah.
I remember I was one of those guys that a wake up call, upperclassman comes, and he's supposed to be dummy, soft, not really going full goal. He's supposed to come up and block me or whatever. Well, he just came up and kept knocking me on my butt. I'm just like, dude, we're not supposed to be going full speed. Why are you doing this? So I said, okay.
What grade were you in?
Seventh grade. And so I'm thinking, okay, this guy, he's he knows the system. He knows, he's playing first team or whatever. And I'm like, okay, you come over here one more time, and I'm gonna have to make sure you don't do that again. So he comes over, he's about to knock me on my ass again, and I just chop him down.
Dude.
And he looks at me and fusses at me like something's wrong with me. Like, why do you do that? I'm like, dude, I just told you, man. I'm like, I'm not gonna sit here and be run over all practice.
Yeah, don't try me back.
What's funny is when I moved to North Carolina when I was in high school, and we moved like the beginning of sometime in my freshman year, but we moved to North Carolina, a small town. So I'm the new guy. I moved from this really big school in Georgia, so I'm a sophomore, but I'm bigger than all the seniors and a lot of them, and I'm like, I've had different kinds of training stuff, and people are like, who the hell is this new guy?
Yeah. And
I'm out there being competitive as hell for the, trying to get on the football team and whatnot. And I remember this one guy did the same thing. Where it was some special teams, the whistle was blowed and I'm standing there and he just hits me as hard as he could just to prove a point. Yeah. And I'm like, next thing you know, I'm dealing it right back. I'm like, all right, boys, I'll show y'all what's up. But yeah, man.
And he want to whine. I'm like, why do you complain? What you're doing. You just expect me just to take it. And I decided it was enough.
Yeah.
And in the story, he didn't do it again. So that worked. So I figured out, football was one of those things I really liked. I ended up playing all the way in high school, and then I went to MTSU to play a little bit before, I eventually got sick of the football politics.
What position did you play?
I played, ended up playing, I played running back in high school, corner, and then I played rover, which 3-4 defense.
I was going to say, if you didn't play linebacker, then I don't know anything about football.
I didn't play linebacker, but if we played a team that ran stovepipe a lot, then they put me in the position, and basically wherever the quarterback would rotate, and when he would step back, I'd hit that hole because we stopped the run. Yeah. So I was one of those guys that I wasn't afraid to put my neck, my head, everything into it. I played the wrong way was what I figured out, and I figured that was good for me that I didn't continue to play football. Yeah, because I was taught the wrong way.
Like technique was?
Yeah, we would talk back then. Your helmet through the ear hole, which My sons play now. They don't. That's a no. You don't play with your head at all.
Damn near don't even have pads on anymore.
But I played a lot with my head, and I threw my body around a lot. And instead of avoiding hits, even as a running back, I'd rather run a guy over multiple times. So when I ran through the hole, eventually he wasn't going to be there because he knew he was going to take a lick.
And it's a lot cooler when you do that.
It was cooler for me, but of course, it was my ego, and it was that.
It looks cooler.
And then, but I had coaches come up to me and tell me, you can't play like that for forever. You're not going to be able to play like that. I'm like, what do you mean? I didn't understand, but now I understand. You can't play like that. Sometimes it's smart. You got to play smarter. So I teach my sons better. Yeah, and what I knew, you got to play with your brain and not just aggression. And I wish I didn't play so aggressive and with so much
reckless abandon.
Because I played out there. Like I didn't know I was playing football until I got the first hit, until the first contact. Then it's like I wake up. Yeah, and I'm in the game.
Yeah, I hear you.
And then during the plays, everything for me was silent. It was like peaceful, silent. As soon as the play was over, crack, it was like everything was, wow. I was just like, where's this sound? So it was just very I don't know, it was very, but I wish I would have played differently because then I would have enjoyed it more. I wouldn't have probably abused my body. I probably would have been able to play longer because, it was fun for me. But like I said, I can teach now, and I'm glad I didn't extend my career the way I was doing it because it wouldn't have been it would have been pretty for me later because we have friends that deal with CTE and all those kind of things, and it's no joke. It's not a good thing.
Charles was talking about some friends, I think, on his episode that he knew that played in the NFL, and they don't have a whole lot of physical support after the fact. I'm pretty sure it was Charles. Maybe it was Eric.
I think.
Yeah,
Eric.
It's hard. It's hard because especially so new. It was so new for a lot of those guys, and a lot of guys were just totally dismissed in the beginning.
Yeah, right.
And then and now they're starting to kind of guys can put their own money into it, but now they're starting to kind of create a system, kind of follow these guys. But still, it's a big liability for the industry as a whole. So they don't want to be so they kind of want to ignore it as much as possible because that can be very costly.
Yeah.
The movie, obviously, a lot of people know this, but the movie Concussion really changed that.
Really changed. It opened my eyes.
Yeah, me too.
It made me grateful that I didn't continue to play the way I was playing.
I think it's interesting, like given the fact that movie is about the fact that they don't want that stuff out. I think it's interesting how dark it is. Like right in the beginning, it shows this guy who was a Super Bowl champion, and he's by the river huffing pain, I think, and it's like, whoa. It's like just a very visceral image. They didn't hold any punches back when it came to that. And
I don't think I saw that.
Yeah, it's a movie with Will Smith, and it's called Concussion, and it's about a doctor.
It's worth watching.
I'll check it out.
I don't watch a lot of movies.
Yes.
It's about the doctor who discovered CTE. He named it. He literally named it. But basically, at the beginning of the movie, they showed these players that are just literally losing their minds. Like I said, the huffing, the pain and stuff. But then thinking after that, he goes back to his house and he's verbally abusing his family and all this stuff. And then he ends up killing himself. And basically, this had happened a lot. And this doctor got a hold of brain scans for these players, and he noticed that there was abnormalities that were consistent across these across the players. But the NFL actively tried to shut him down and tried to suppress his studies and all this kind of stuff for all the reasons that we're talking about. But eventually it got out. And I mean, obviously they made a movie about it.
The brain stuff's no joke.
Yeah, it's no joke, and it's like how do you heal something that
Yeah,
it heals in its own time. I know I had the TBI pretty minor on the back of my head. But it could have been so much worse. But that being said, I was having some issues, I think a year or so ago, was trying to get it checked out and everything just because of, I don't know, I was going to the VA and they were connecting anxiety and just all this mental stuff I was dealing with to that. And I got to do all these memory tests and whatnot. And I don't help because I decided to go, hey, I want to go do underground bare knuckle fighting, so I do a little bit of that and, and just ridiculous stuff. And it doesn't really help.
Right.
But also, man, I got to feed that competitive side of me too. And I love that. Yeah. So
as I've had to channel that since I've gotten older myself. But I did have a colleague that I play with at MTSU as well. He's got some brain scans done recently, and he said, "Man, I got it done. I was curious because my cousin did, and I was curious." And he's like, "Man," he said, "I almost wish I didn't."
Right.
Because now I know
that bad.
Back in the day, the last couple of things on this I was going to say is that like you were talking about the brain, the brain can heal. You can get a concussion, it can heal, but with CTE, that's chronic. And it's your brain's basically past the point of. You can't. And the thing with the CTE too is it's the memory stuff too. But a lot of times people with CTE become really aggressive and they act really just off the rails.
Yeah, there's some players I won't mention, but they even the complete personality differences between when people knew them in the beginning of the career versus when they've been playing. So it's completely different people. It's interesting. So
I don't know if this is who you're talking about, but Antonio Brown.
Well, I'm not gonna say any names, but yeah, he's a good example.
Yeah. So I'll say it. Antonio Brown. He got hit. Just took a nasty, all-time nasty hit a few years ago, right to the ear hole, he was talking about, by a linebacker who is known for hitting people dirty, and there was a flag on the play, whole thing. But I mean, when I say he was unconscious, I mean he was arms flail. It was really, really bad. And ever since then, dude, the guy's just been,
just jacked up.
Yeah, just super self-sabotage.
I know who he is. I don't really follow. Me, I don't follow sports much.
I still had my YouTube channel at the time, bro. And this, I don't know. I thought it was controversial at the time to say, but whenever he was on the Raiders, I straight up said at that time, I was like, I think he has CTE already. I just think he does because he's just, just the craziest, most reckless decisions he would make. And
put it this way: if you met him today, you wouldn't, and then people will talk about him before. You would never think
He was super humble and stuff.
You would never think he was. They were talking about the same person.
Well, I mean, and
he was like a late round draft pick. He didn't go to a big school. Like, he had to work for everything he got. He was known as having one of the best work ethics in the NFL, and he still had a great work ethic after that. But again, it's just the behavior. It's the he showed up to training camp, first training camp with the Raiders, and his feet had hypothermia because he got into a cryotherapy with wet feet.
yeah.
I mean, that's like a very small example. He called his general manager. It's all kind of, crazy stuff.
So the thing is with the brain too, man, even scientists haven't even figured the brain out yet. Like I remember being in a psychology class, they're like, we still don't understand it fully. They can look at patterns and scans, but you can't really figure out the mind. But hell, like that controls everything. So if it's getting beat up constantly and it gets some really good damage, it can shift it all at the same time as well. It's pretty crucial shit. But at the same time, I always go back to, it's heartbreaking to hear situations like that, but everybody makes a choice. Like you choose to get out there and, you choose to get out there and bare knuckle fight or play football and the risk. And it's like, a lot of the times you're going to be good, but every once in a while, man, some people are just going to get jacked up, and it's sad, but it's also part of it. You know what I'm saying?
It's definitely part of it, but I think the mentality. I'm glad the mentality is changing in the game because it is a gladiator sport in a sense, but the mentality of really you're not trying to kill a guy.
No.
But sometimes in the moment you're playing with that mentality,
right?
That if I take this guy out, it's going to make this easier. But then at the end of the day, it's not what you really want to do. It's just that psychological way to hype yourself up and get yourself into the mode.
Yeah.
But you don't really have to play like that to have fun and, and be successful.
Be smart about it.
Yeah, and like you said, like with the ear hole thing, it's like now they teach you head across, so that you don't hurt your neck.
Shoulder pads. They play with the shoulder pads a lot more these days.
Yeah,
shoulder pads is the biggest thing, and
better technology.
I think the younger you are when you start, you learn the better techniques, how to tackle, all those kind of things, and you don't lose it once you get older.
Which is interesting because the response to like how dangerous it is to start playing with pads later. Like a lot of kids will play flag first.
I don't think it makes a difference because I think when they're that little, when they start at like 5 years old, they can't really hurt each other.
Right.
The helmets are way, their heads are way too big for their stuff. So they can't really hurt each other.
But they can learn the technique, like to your point.
But they can learn the technique, and they can learn how to control their body, and they can learn the proper ways while they're young, and they can't really hurt each other because the speed of the game is not that fast, right? Yeah. So when the speed of the game picks up, all those things that they learn when they're younger starts to take over, and it becomes a different kind of way they play.
Okay.
I know we would have jumped something else. I don't know how we get on this, but we were talking about CTE for some reason recently, and I brought up this study when I had my channel. I did a video on it, and these were people that submitted the brains, like their families submitted their brains because they suspected CTE, so that is definitely needs to be noted. But it was like 111 brains that were studied, and this was NFL players, but it was also players who had just played college, and there was also a couple of guys who had just played high school, and 110 out of 111 had CTE.
Wow, yeah, I can believe it. I can definitely believe it. And it's not. Football's not exclusive to these things. So soccer, I know some brain injuries into soccer careers, and people I know as well. So
combat sports.
I got to show him King of the Streets.
Oh my God! Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen that. I've talked about it before in here. Like one of our earliest episodes, and then Joe Rogan actually recently talked about it. But I'll show you some videos on like Instagram. I've been following it for a long time, but it's underground fighting, but it's no rounds, no rules. So they're not wearing gloves. They do it in like Sweden underground. Like they have like an abandoned ice skating rink they do some fights at, or like underground in like these parking garages.
On concrete. So they're picking people up and slamming them on concrete. They're knocking people out and they're falling back onto concrete.
And they don't believe in sportsmanship. They're like, these guys are here. I'm serious. They even said that. They made a post because this one guy actually bit someone's ear. Like
pulled
a Tyson on him. They're like, hey, sportsmanship doesn't matter here. These dudes are here to conquer, you want to talk about. So these guys come from some from the U.S. You get them all from like Eastern Europe, some guys from Africa and stuff. And they're trained fighters, but they're stomping each other's heads in the they're throwing each other on concrete. And it's brutal. Like they don't care. It's insane. Wow. You know what I'm saying? But that's out there.
Even him, he bare knuckles. And I box, but I
wouldn't go that far.
But even that,
I got more to lose.
There's level, like boxing for me is already dangerous enough. And then where you're at, I'm like, bare knuckle.
Well, speaking of other sports, I've been involved.
Yeah.
I also wrestled, and then I ran track as well in high school. So,
What a freaking athlete! Good God, you did gymnastics, you ran track, wrestled, and you're a Mr. Olympia bodybuilder. That's just insane.
yeah. Well, it took me to bodybuilding was one of those things. Like I said, I didn't even think about.
True,
I didn't
that's
think
right.
about it at all. It wasn't my wife, my now wife, mentioned that I should be a bodybuilder when I grow up and when I was in high school.
Yeah.
And I basically told her, no, I don't want to be on stage in an oil on a Speedo. That's basically what I told her.
Right.
It didn't appeal to
That's
me.
how you perceive it then at a younger age.
It didn't appeal to me at all. But it was like, I think it was like about a year later, I actually won my first contest.
Nice.
But it was all because of I was, shopping for a gym after I quit playing football. So my girlfriend at the time took me to Goals down there at the square, by the square.
There's a Goals on the square?
There used to be. Actually, they just closed the one because they had 3 Golds here. But the first existing Golds was down by the square. Very first one before the new people came in, and they ended up closing down because the guy got busted with some drugs
stuff?
that he shouldn't have had, and he basically escaped. And they haven't found him. He's probably
real?
could come back, and it's been like over 7 years now, so he should be fine. But so they shut that gym down. But I went there, and it's kind of cramped, and it wasn't really my style. So then I went to Southeastern, which is now we know is Olympus. And I went down there, and it was more like a powerlifting gym. It had that feel I liked, the atmosphere I liked. So I was like, man, this is where I want to train.
Of course.
So it was a powerlifting gym more or less when I was down there. And I don't know if you see the Chain Gang logos and stuff that were down there.
Yeah.
I don't know if they cover those up now, but that's literally where they train. The powerlifting group, Chain Gang, was down there. And they were lifting, and I was in there just working out. And a trainer there, Robert Weems was his name, he came up and he asked me, you want to do a bodybuilding contest? And I was pretty new at the gym. And I was like, no, I just turned him down. And I had turned him down like 4 different times when he asked me. Every time when he see me, he'd be like, sure. So I had time to think about it. And I was like, man, I'm not playing football. I'm in here lifting. Man, maybe let's give some motivation to train.
And that you always had that competitive spirit. So you were feeling it, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, I was just thinking about it. Like, I'm not doing anything, and I'm just lifting. I'm not doing anything with it. Maybe there's something I can do with it. So 5th time he asked me, I was like, okay, what do I got to do? So he's like, okay, you just come in here every day. I'll show you how to pose, and I'll give you a diet.
Yeah.
So basically, he said, you got 4 weeks to this contest. So I didn't know anything about bodybuilding. 4 weeks. I didn't know it was a short time or what. So he taught me how to pose every day back in the aerobics room. And then he gave me a diet. Basically, it was a low-carb diet, meat and vegetables kind of, because I didn't have enough time. So I did that. And I went to the show, and I was so worried about, I didn't want to be on stage in a Speedo and all this kind of stuff. I was worried about that. But then I got backstage, I saw some of the competition. I'm looking around, I'm like, I think I could win this. I'm like, man, it was an MTSU.
What do you compete at, by the way? What weight?
It's an open class. So depending on the contest, depending on how much prep time, I've been 254, about 253, 254 on stage, and I've been 237, 235, something the same year.
Oh shit!
so and that was just this past year.
So what does open class mean?
Open class means no weight class.
So anybody can. Okay,
Yeah.
Interesting.
And then we have 212 and under, so you have to wear 212 or below.
No weight class.
Yeah, and with the amateurs, everything is run by weight class. So at this point, I was considered when I first got in, I was like a middleweight, so I was probably like in the 170s or something like that.
Damn.
It's my first show. It was Southeast. No. What was it? Supernatural Bodybuilding Federation. I can't remember what actual show name. That was the organization. So
I've never even heard of that.
it was on campus.
Okay.
Right, at MTSU. That's why it was so convenient. So I entered in the novice class. I entered in the middleweight class. And what ended up happening is I, went on stage. I wasn't thinking about being in the Speedo. I'm thinking about, okay, I think I can win this, so I'm trying to do everything right.
Of course.
And I'm doing everything I know to do, and then I went in the novice class, I ended up winning middleweight, and then I won the overall. So my first bodybuilding
Your first show? Damn.
Crushed it.
I won 3 trophies.
Hell yeah.
So I was like, okay, this is not that bad. I kind of like
might
it.
be something I could-
Something I could do.
Yeah.
Kind of gave me the motivation I needed. So I was
Yeah.
like, okay, where do I go next? They said, well, we got a nationals, the last show of the year in Georgia. So I went to their national show. I didn't win. I actually didn't win. I got second. But I got beat by a guy that was like 30 years old.
Yeah.
And I was like,
He said, I didn't win, like, for once. Like, somebody beat me.
I was a teenager, and it was really close. And I'm like, well, that guy's 30 years old, so I'm
that's what I'm
I'm like 19, and I'm like, okay, I could take that. So I'm like, okay, where can I compete that's more competitive? Because I'm like, if I just be this guy, I can pretty much win this whole thing. I'm like, and I'm pretty close. I think I could do it. So I'm like, where can I go compete harder? So I go on the internet, and at the time, Muscle Mania had the biggest presence on the internet, and it was another national federation, and they had a super body. They called it in Miami.
You said it's a natural federation? Okay.
So Muscle Mania, yeah. So
Did you say national or
Natural.
Natural.
Natural
Okay,
federation.
because that's I know that's a big distinction.
So I took some student loan money, bought my first plane ticket, and this is before the post 9/11 regulations. So I took a cooler, ice, food on the plane, had his own seat because basically it was too big, on the plane. I go down there. I don't book my hotel beforehand. I just had a friend who moved down to Miami to manage a gym, the same owner of Olympus at the time.
Okay.
And because he had a gym in Miami at a hotel, so he met me down there, and I tried checking his hotel with cash, and they were like, "Give me a hard time." So my buddy came to help me. That he some kind of way talked him into it. Maybe he put his card in there. I don't know. So I paid a little deposit, and then they let me stay. So I'm like, the only reason I went down there because I looked on the website, and there was a teen champion that I thought I could beat. I'm like, I looked down there, I was like, I could beat that guy. So I went down there, and then that was my goal, to go down there and beat him.
Yeah.
So you basically had your first competition, and then you were like, okay, I need to level this up by a ton, and then went to a national.
Yeah, I went to just a bigger organization.
But you immediately were like, okay, I got to
turn
the difficulty up.
Yeah, so that's why I went. I went to that competition, and it was like I ended up winning. I ended up beating the guy, and I remember after they drug test everybody, and then you got to take a piss test and everything. I was like, that was interesting. But I saw like some of the people that big names today, like Ulysses. I think he won the overall category. Yeah. He's a big name in natural bodybuilding, and so he even remembered me. I was in Dubai with him this year. And he was like, man, he was talking about me from that show. And I was like, man, dude, you even remember me? He's like, I was like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
So it was really cool. So from there, I was like, man, there was a lot of activity going on around that show. A lot of photographers, and they were like, okay, you get opportunities for modeling and all this kind of stuff. And some of it was sketchy, So the owner of actually, you see a video of me on the beach. A video of me on the beach from that weekend doing a bunch of flips and posing and talking to a camera. That was specifically from that weekend. So Brandon Curry on the beach doing a bunch of flips is specifically from the weekend I'm talking about.
I'll look it up.
It's on YouTube, so
right.
I know it's on there. People always say post clips from it, but it's on there. And so the owner of the organization was trying to get me to sign with Muscle Mania. So he's talking to me. He was like, he was trying to get me to sign with. He's giving me a contract to impress me. He sent me on a photo shoot, video thing in New York with who would become my manager at the time. So I went there with Greg Plitt. I don't know if you remember Greg Plitt.
I remember Greg Plitt.
Yeah, Greg Plitt was. This was Greg Plitt. Greg Plitt was going from a bodybuilder to becoming a fitness model.
Yeah.
This was his phasing out. He was a bodybuilder first, but he's becoming a fitness model. So I met him in this phase, and a guy named Omar Decker, who was another IFBB pro. So I get there, and we're at Bev Francis Gym, which is a famous, iconic gym. Steve Weinberger, right? I was at gym, and it's very famous in our career. I didn't know any of this,
Yeah.
So I'm in there, and there's a Russian guy. He has a steady camera, and I'm meeting that, and I'm like, man, this is cool. So I'm with Greg, and we're shooting, and we're doing all this stuff, and I stayed with Omar. I'm rooming with Omar, and Omar's asking me about Muscle Mania because he had been in Muscle Mania, and he let me know that may not be the route that I wanted to go. He gave me all these little details and specifics and stuff he dealt with, other people dealt with, and I was like, okay, I'll hear this. And then I talked to Adam, and he was like, you got a contract from them? Show me the contract. I'm like, okay, cool. And he looked at it and he said, Brandon, I'm gonna be honest with you. He says, it's one of those contracts, you know, it's a lot of obligations for you, but it's nothing you didn't really guarantee you in return. He says, I want to bring you to the NPC. There's a show you qualify for. You're in college. It's the Collegiate Teen and Masters Championships in Pittsburgh. And, you know, you can go there and you qualify because you're in college and you can go and compete, and we'll see where you go from there. So that's what I did. I got ready for that show, and it was the biggest show event I've been at, NPC, which is basically the amateur division to where I'm a pro today. So I'll go there and I compete against a bunch of guys that, you know, were higher caliber, but all in college. So I see the teenagers, they look incredible. I'm like, these are some good teenagers.
You're still 19.
Yeah. And I see maybe I'm 20. Maybe I'm 20, or 19 or 20 at this point. Maybe like a year or so later.
Around that.
So this competition's stepped
and
up
it's
a lot.
Bunch of people there, and the Masters guys were just impressive. But I go there and I actually win. I actually win the collegiate title, and I'm like, man,
there's a theme here with him in the competition.
Winning.
I'm like, this is crazy. I just won, and I'm like, man, this is nuts. So Adam, he has a modeling agency, and he owns a website called StrengthNet, which is basically guys doing feats of strength. And you know, basically, he's like, okay, he's booking me for gigs with magazines. So I shot a lot for Muscle and Fitness. And I'm doing some videos from feats of strength from him. But he's like, okay, look, you come here and I can kind of guide you through the industry. And he said, we can go, since you did this, you qualify for do this, and we can qualify you for the next level. So I went to go do another natural show in DC. And I ended up getting second there to another guy who was questionable whether he was actually natural or not. But
who's to say? Who's to say?
I don't know. But I was like, this guy looks incredible. But it qualified me for what is called Junior Nationals. So this will be my first national show, and I'm thinking I already qualified for Junior Nationals. Now tell me, I don't know anything about the ranking. I don't know any of this. Without Adam, I'm a
You're
dead
just going
duck.
to shows and doing your shit.
Yeah, he's just setting me up, right?
Yeah.
And he actually knows all this because he works for a company called Repetro, and they interview all the athletes backstage. So he has to be at these events anyway.
Okay.
So he's just like, okay, come on with me here. So I go do Junior Nationals. I know these are high level guys.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm natural. I'm not competing on the same playing field as these guys. So I'm depressed. I don't do anything I'm supposed to do when I'm there. I'm not even eating. I don't even shave or anything before I go on stage.
So you were depressed because you felt like
I'm thinking I'm getting my ass kicked.
But you were at a natural show. You just felt like they weren't natural.
No,
though?
I was national show. My first
National.
national level.
Okay.
So it was a national level, high caliber. It's just like before you go to a pro qualifier.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So I was in Chicago, and I'm like, man, this is no way I'm gonna get my ass kicked. But I'm on stage and I'm doing my thing, and it's going fairly well. I'm just like, and then I don't end up winning, but I end up getting second. And the guy that actually won, I didn't even recognize him. I'm like, I didn't even see this guy on stage competing. I don't even know. Like, I'm confused. But come to find out, okay, that qualified me for getting second there. Qualified me for the next level to get my pro card. So I get to go to a pro qualifier next. Well, as fate would have it, I get to go to the Olympia. I get invited to go to the Olympia, and we're looking. My manager's looking for contracts with companies and stuff with me. So he invites me to the Olympia, and they have a modeling competition called.
So like just going to the Olympia or not competing in the Olympia?
No, not competing.
Yeah, okay.
Just going because he had there's an expo competition called there was a Road to the Pros.
Okay.
And he had a lot of models that were competing in that competition. And you can win a Harley and this kind of stuff.
Nice.
And it was pretty cool. So I had some of the models were my friends. One of the girls was Jamie Eason, who actually won. And she won the bike, and she was too small to even fit on this thing. It was a custom-made chopper.
This episode is brought to you by the Music City Fit Expo. This is the largest fitness expo in the South, all held within 70,000 square feet at the Nashville Fairgrounds. There will be more than 150 fitness vendors ranging from apparel, gyms, to supplements, and more. This is going to be at the Nashville Fairgrounds May 13th. Come out, watch tons of fitness events, meet 4 times Mr. Olympia Jay Cutler, support vendors, and meet tons of amazing people within the fitness industry here in Middle Tennessee. All of this and more May 13th at the Nashville Fairgrounds. For more information, get your tickets and head over to musiccityfitexpo.com or find these guys on Instagram at Music City Fit Expo. Thank you.
So you were invited to Mr. Olympia.
So yeah, my manager he took me out there to Mr. Olympia. company, we're trying to get contracts, trying to help companies. And on the flight over, I had an interesting feeling that I was going to see my longtime love, which, after high school, pretty much, she went back home, was from my now wife. She's from Hawaii. So I had a feeling I was going to see her. I don't know why, but it was intense.
Your wife?
My now wife.
Okay.
Yeah, we weren't married then. But
Were you going to Hawaii?
No, I was going to Olympia.
And so you just kind of...
Yeah, I was on a flight, and I'm thinking, man, because it's like a 7-year period where I hadn't seen her. She'd moved back to Hawaii, and, we kind of come in contact here and there, but we kind of, grew apart. And so it was like, man, I had a feeling I was going to see her. So I was at this expo.
So, sorry to interrupt. You had a feeling you were going to see her. Was it her specifically, or you just had a feeling you're going to meet the love of your life?
No, I see her.
Okay,
That's
so
so
you already had
interesting.
like a
That's so
crush or
interesting.
something.
Yeah. This is the woman I knew I was married. I can get on that later.
All right,
but so I had a feeling I was gonna see her. So I'm at this expo, and I'm seeing all this. I'm around all these people, and it's like the first time at the Olympia. I see Ronnie Coleman go by me with his little entourage, and he's bigger than life. I just remember his traps looking monstrous, and I'm like, is he human? Like, it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
But my manager, he was big in arm wrestling, so he had me at the, I was meeting some of the arm wrestlers. He had introduced me to a world champion at the time. So I'm right in the middle of just dapping this guy up, right? And I hear Brandon, and I don't even finish the dap. I put my hand on his chest. I look over, and my now wife is standing there, right there, and I'm like, whoa. So I don't even finish dapping him up, and it cost me getting the VIP at his party later that night. He felt totally disrespected. But I walk over and I just hug her. I'm just hugging her, and we were embracing for so long. I open my eyes and like people are literally like looking at us. I'm like, we're in the middle of an expo, just hugging people, just like, I'm like, oh, okay, this is a little weird. But I realized she was there with a company. She just went on like a Wine Tropics, and she was a spokesman for another company out there. So she was invited for there. So I'm thinking, man, I see her. It's been this is crazy. So we walk up to Flex Wheeler after the Road for the Pros contest, and my manager's trying to talk him into put me on the list because all the athletes that competed in the competition got to go to the show for free. So he's trying to talk Flex Wheeler into put me on the list. Well, at the time, I'm a nobody. Flex Wheeler doesn't know who I am.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, this is a long shot, But I ended up going with the group of models anyway, over to the venue, and we get to the door, and the lady, she's like, okay, let's see, give me your names. And she's looking through the list, and she's about to go through the names, and then she looks up at all of us. She says, okay, you guys all look the part. Go on up. So I'm like,
She really did her job well.
I'm like, what?
That's funny.
So basically, there's this is like an arena. So it's like, Bridgestone sort of arena, stadium type seating.
Yeah.
And the stage is in there. And there's a booth, like Skybox at the top. This is like they call it a Weeder booth. There's a VIP, they have free food, free drinks up there. And it's a who's, like all the people in the magazines that you read about. So I go up there, and I'm like, man, I'm up here, and I'm with the who's, like people I only see in the magazines. And then I talk to one of my favorite coaches that I read his stuff. I'm talking to him. He's a Canadian guy. And I'm just like, man, this is nuts. Like, and so I'm drinking a little bit, eating, and all of a sudden the crowd starts going nuts. And I'm like, what's going on? So I walk over, I look down, and it's Ronnie Coleman. And I'm thinking, I'm here to see Ronnie Coleman break the record. That's what I'm thinking. Because he has
to break the record.
Break a record. He has 8 wins. He's tied with Lee Haney for 8. And if he wins this one, he's going to break the record. So he comes out, it's his posing routine. He comes out, this is the first Mr. Olympia where they let him use props, right? He comes out dressed like Moses, right?
Yeah.
And he has 2 tablets in his hand, the bodybuilding 10 commandments, right?
That is so good.
So I'm just like, this is weird. So he throws it down, he takes it off, and he's doing his posing routine. And I'm like, man, Ronnie's gonna win.
Yeah.
I thought it was impossible for anybody to beat Ronnie, right? I thought it was impossible.
I didn't know he ever did that. I love cool, weird shit like that.
Yeah, it was like
It's pretty awesome.
That's the only year that I happened to be at the only year they let people use props, right?
I was let them use it for 1 year, and then they were like,
Yeah, then it's like,
Just
oh,
like
scratch this.
After
too
Ronnie's antics, we need to cut this shit out.
So I'm there, literally just in time to see Ronnie come out and do his posing routine, And then they're going to go through the final judging, and then they're going to announce the winners, right? So it's him and Jay Cutler standing there, top two. Next name to call is going to be announce the champion. And I'm like, man, Ronnie's got this. And so, no, he's going to win. He's going to break the record.
What's the at a Mr. Olympia? I've only been to one bodybuilding show ever, and I was like, this is like, I don't want to say that I thought it was lame, but I definitely I wasn't like hype or anything. I didn't think much of it. But by the end of that first and only show that I was like, this shit actually got super hype. And towards the end, whenever they're doing the pose offs and there's like 3 people that step up and they're all doing their thing. I got to the point where I was like, okay, like I kind of understood it. So we're talking about Mr. Olympia at the Super Bowl, right? So you got two guys left. You're waiting to hear what's the tension. What's that like?
Hey man, it's like a pin drop at that point. Everybody's waiting to get the announcement, and the announcer, he normally kind of embellishes and makes everybody give you the suspense. He's milking the suspense. So the thing is I knew what happened. I know specifically what happened, but what happened in my personal experience was completely different than the reality that I know everybody else was experiencing at the time.
Yeah.
So they announced Jay Cutler as the champion, right? So I instantly know the stadium erupts because that's the biggest upset. Jay Cutler, he's one of the fan favorites because he got second so many years. He built a following. Everybody wanted to see him win.
I remember that whole like feud right there.
Everybody wanted to see him win, right? So the stadium erupts. But for me, it was dead silent, and I got tunnel vision. And it's like, at that moment, it's like, it's the point in my life where I'm like, what am I supposed to be doing? I'm looking for purpose, right? Bodybuilding was just a hobby. It wasn't something I considered as a career at all. I was just looking for purpose. I'm looking at what am I going to be doing? I'm not playing football anymore. What am I going to be doing at this point in my life? And next thing I know, tunnel vision, and it's like, this is what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like literally I knew, like, this is what you're doing. This is what you're going. And it lined up exactly with my pursuits post after, because I qualified for my pro qualifier. And basically this is September. And by the next summer, I'm preparing for my first pro qualifying contest, right? So
Will you bring your mic just a little closer?
For my first pro qualifying contest. So it's more like my mentality was going to change.
Yeah.
And I realized, okay, if this is what I'm supposed to be pursuing, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I just seen the impossible happen, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I didn't think anybody was going to ever beat Ronnie. I thought I was going to see you break the record. So I'm thinking, okay, this is a hobby, but this now has to become a job.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not getting paid to do this yet, but I have to have this as a job type mentality. And that's when my mentality in the gym and my training, my discipline kind of changed. Now, I didn't know a whole lot, but what I knew, I put my effort into it. So I'm going to have to step it up a notch. I was going to have to level the playing field. This is what let me know, okay, I can't, if that's what I'm supposed to be doing, I can't be a natural's not going to cut it anymore. Yeah, of course. so I went to experiment with whatever I knew, and the gym guys that helped me.
You had to dabble.
And basically, that process went crazy. I got, some crazy results with, a little bit of nothing. And sort of been a time, and my body was kind of changing, improving.
Is that your phone?
Maybe it's mine sitting up here.
Sorry. I got ADD myself, and I keep hearing it buzz.
I
was going to ask you real quick before you go any further. So you mentioned when Ronnie lost, you got like the tunnel vision.
Yeah.
So at first I thought you were going to say that was something to do with like kind of, like seeing your hero lose, but it sounds like it was more like the fact that he lost made you realize you could do it. Like what about that made you flip your mindset so much?
It was like I was here. This is purpose. It wasn't an accident. I'm somewhere I wasn't supposed to be, seeing something happen that I didn't think was going to happen, right? So for me, it's like, okay, this is purpose alone. So what is it? What am I supposed to be focused? Well, the focus was there. Yeah. It's the stage. It's the Olympia, right?
You could feel it.
Yeah. It's like internal.
It was like the whole event, the whole atmosphere, the whole competition. You just kind of like were hooked right there.
Right. I felt like, that was the purpose. I was timed. That's what I was supposed to be. It's like, it was an appointment. This is the appointment. This is where it was supposed to happen. This is what's going to wake me up to the journey that I was going to be on, right? So, in light of that, I'm looking and I'm just like, okay, this is nuts, and I happen to be preparing for probably one of the most important shows my life at that point, which is the USA's, which is the first pro qualifier I'd ever done. So leading up into it, I had met some guys that were locally top notch to me. Some guys that were high caliber on a national level from the Tennessee area, Tennessee, Georgia area, we call it. And they were curious when they saw me because I visited certain events, like what was I going to compete in? Because at the time I was a light heavyweight, and I was a natural guy as a light heavyweight, so I had a good amount of muscle. But with my new experimentation, we didn't know I was going to stay in the class or go to a different class. So when they saw me at one of the events, he was asking me, "What are you going to be?" I was like, "I don't know." Because he was a light heavyweight. He was worried about me competing against him. So I was like, I don't know, man. I don't know.
He's low-key like, maybe you should just
this guy, just stay in that one.
I said, I could be a light heavyweight, could be a heavyweight. I don't really know yet. We haven't really started dieting yet. So I end up dieting. I end up coming in as a heavyweight, right? And I'm going to this show. It's slammed with guys, notable names. And I'm thinking, I'm here, but I'm probably going to get ignored because I'm this guy from Tennessee nobody knows, right? Yeah. But I end up going in, and next thing I know, I'm doing really well. And I didn't win, but I placed second to a NFL pro, a guy who played pro in the NFL.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, he played fullback for the 49ers.
So you transitioned into bodybuilding.
This Sean Griffin.
Oh,
so
shit. That's wild.
Somebody from my world, what I thought I was going to be doing was in a bodybuilding show, compete against me, right?
That's wild.
For the NFL. And he beats me at that show, but it was the first time these guys see me. So me knowing how bodybuilding worked, it's not going to be your first time likely that you're going to win a pro qualifier in most cases. The only exception to that was Phil Heath. And that happened to be one of the guys I was kind of following because in NPC magazines, I'm looking at this guy, Phil Heath, had just won junior nationals. Mm-hmm. And then he went on the next same year and he won this pro card. And then they started calling him the Gift. Well, what irritated me about this was the fact that I had an email that I had made. It's Brandon's Gifted, which I put on that contract. That's how long old that email is.
What is it?
And I'm thinking, this dude he just jacked
my name, bro.
He just jacked my moniker, Damn. And so he had this easy path, up, and I'm just like, man, I'm chasing this dude. This dude, this is the top guy in the future. I know this is one of the guys that I'm gonna have to try to beat, right? And so that was one of the things I had to deal with. And then so I ended up getting second. I come off stage at pre-judging before the show was even over, and I get a call from Flex Magazine. I get a call from Muscle Development at the time, two of the biggest bodybuilding magazines. Yeah. And I'm thinking, and then I get a call from Flex Wheeler. So he comes around again, right?
Yeah, that's funny because you were like, hey, they're not gonna let me in. I'm nobody, and now you're getting a call from him.
And he calls me and he's like, "So brother number one," and I'm like, "Huh? So brother number one?" He's like, "Who?" "So brother number one." He said, "That's what I'm calling you, man. That's my name for you." I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Thanks.
This is Flex Wheeler. I'm like, "Oh," and I'm thinking to myself, how'd you get my number? I'm thinking it. I didn't say it, but he's telling me how well I did, and he's giving me, I'm thinking, how'd he get my number?
Yeah.
So, he got all these calls, and then Hani, who I was talking about earlier, he was my first bodybuilding coach. So this is where he picked me up. He was working for BSN at the time. I used to be at BSN, and he wanted to work with me. So he had, basically come up to me, talk to me. He talked with the company. I want to work with this guy. We got to bring him on.
Yeah.
So that's how I got with BSN, right? So later that year, we got nationals. So it's my first contest working with a coach. But all this time I've been doing it by myself.
Damn, I was about to say, everything we've talked about so far, you were doing that by yourself.
Yeah.
That's wild. That didn't even occur to me.
I was totally ignorant, and I didn't know how ignorant I was about everything until I would work with a coach.
Look how far you got without.
That's insane.
I was doing everything wrong. Everything
that's
wrong.
a
gift, man.
Yeah. Holy shit. That's like fucking going into the NFL and not having been coached at all. I mean, obviously that makes no sense, but or I guess like boxing or something where you be by yourself. You know what I mean? Like you're in the Olympics and where's your coach at? And you're like, no, I don't
got a corner man.
I don't have one.
Yeah. So it was like he basically taught me a lot, and we took me to nationals, and he happened to be working with who else? Phil Heath. It was one of his athletes, right?
Yeah.
So I go to compete in nationals, and Phil Heath, this guy I only seen in magazines, I'm thinking, so he comes in my room. It's his first off season. He's coming to talk to his coach, and his coach happens to be my coach. So he steps on my scale. He's like, how much you weigh? Biggest he's ever been. He was like 270 pounds, first off season. He was like, and the thing about it was it's crazy because I'm sitting there and I'm getting ready for the contest and Hani was like, take off your shirt. Show him what you're working with. And Phil, I had met Phil before, but it was briefly at, it's another story. I don't want to go there, but it was briefly in Hawaii. It was weird because he was shy. He was kind of shy. Oh, really? So to me, anyway, people don't know him as shy today, but to me personally, he was kind of shy. So he's like, I can't take off my shirt in front of this guy. He looks incredible. And I go, what? I'm like, you're Phil Heath.
He asked Phil Heath to take his shirt off to show you.
Yeah.
And he didn't want to do it in front of you.
Yeah.
Damn.
I'm like, Phil Heath. I'm like, you're Phil Heath, man. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, you're freaking incredible. Like, what are you talking about? So he's just like, man,
that's a crazy compliment.
It's a crazy compliment at the time, right? So I go through the show and I ended up getting second again, right? So I walk off the stage and a guy in a suit, I didn't know at the time. He said, hey, man, you did well tonight. Very, very good. You got a great future ahead of you. AD, he put in his time, and this is the best he ever looked. And, he earned it. We gave him the nod tonight. He said, but don't worry, you'll get yours. I walk away, and the first person I know backstage, I walk up to Phil Heath. He's backstage, and I go, hey, Phil. I said, who's that guy over there in that suit? He said, what did he tell you? I said, yeah, I told him what he told me. He said, man, that's Jim Mannion. He said, man, it means you keep working hard. You're gonna get yours, man. Yeah. He said he likes what you see, man. He gave me motivation. He said, that's good. So because I didn't know that's the president of the IFBB.
He's the president of the IFBB. Yeah. Very nice.
So basically, he just told me, basically encouraged me, because I took it hard. As the best I ever looked. I was very conditioned, and he did a great job with me. And I was like, okay, I still fell short. But he's like, let me know. So fate would have it that. BSN at the time fell out with Hani. So this next year I didn't have a coach. And I got married as well. And I kind of relocated to the West Coast. So I was in California. And I did a lot of my prep in Hawaii, where my wife is from. So it was crazy because we were trying to move to California. We were fresh. I was starting all over. It was cold.
So how did you go from the feeling in the plane, seeing her at the expo, to getting married? Is it a short story long or a long story short?
That just kind of complicates the story. Just a little bit more.
That's an important part.
It is an important part. Like she contacted me after that, and we stayed in touch. And she was competing in her first contest.
Okay.
And we had been to the Arnold Classic, which is the second biggest contest. Went to Expo. She was there representing her sponsors. And, I just kind of was there, and I seen all these pro bodybuilders, all these guys who's just hitting on her at her booth all day. Every time I come by. So I come by and chill, and she was rejecting them, and it's just weird. It was all, they named her Bandit 07. That was the nickname for her.
Bandit 07?
Yeah, could put a ring on it, 07, that year. So, she's my friend because I knew her since high school. So I was just hanging out with her, and we, after she got off, we went to go shop around. She wanted to do a show, got her shoes, got her a suit, and I was going to help her do the show. She's going to do a show in Hawaii. So, we stayed in touch. I was, giving her advice on this and this and that, and then I ended up planning the trip to go out there and see her.
So you weren't playing the game like everybody else was. You weren't just trying to hit on her. It just organically kind of blossomed there, I guess.
Well, I had to do it a different way, a different method, because I kind of long story short, I met my wife in high school in a dream. And the dream I only told my mom, and I didn't even tell my wife this. My mom told my wife about the dream after we got married. So I kind of knew I had to take a different approach from the mentality that I had with women before. Because this whole thing launched off as a young man, I figured out I could manipulate women, and it was something that I enjoyed, but it didn't really sit right with me because I was raised better than that.
Yeah, it feels wrong.
Yeah. So in desperation, to kind of do what I wanted and get away with it. I said a prayer one night, said, if you don't want me to live this player lifestyle, just show me my wife. And then next thing you know, I had that dream. and I was like, okay, whoa.
So did you have the dream about her specifically,
Yeah.
like the way she looked and everything?
Specifically. But here's what I met her in my dream, and what I knew was for my mom's memory, because I told my mom her name was like mine, and she comes from a tough background. Those are the details I remember telling my mom, and it was over the summer. So it was the beginning of the summer I had a dream, and then through the summer. I totally forgot about the dream. Totally forgot. So as school was approaching the next year, I was having reoccurring segments of the dream would pop up in my head, and it would come back to my memory. Like I would be like, "Man, that's right, I did have that." But it was just like different segment. It wasn't like the full dream. It's like a segment of a dream. Mm-hmm. So it prepared me to so much in my head. And I thought I was a crazy person that I went to school the first day and I'm looking for her, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm like,
you're like, she might be there.
I'm like, she's got to be here somewhere, right? And she didn't come the first day. So I was kind of pissed. I was kind of disappointed. But I worked in the office, the attendance office, because I had pretty much finished all my credits, and they didn't let me leave. So I had to do something. So I worked in the attendance office. I sat there. We just listened to music, and nobody came in the office. We just take folders to classrooms that we were directed to, or pick the folders up, whatever it may be. So nobody ever came in the office, but I was sitting there one day at a computer, and we listened to like Ozzy Brothers. One of my friends in there, he loved the Ozzy Brothers. He listened to them all day. So we're sitting there listening, and I'm looking down the hallway at the end of the day, because it was like the end of the day, and I have a personal earthquake. That's the only way I can explain it. A personal earthquake to where I literally, it feels like everything is shaking, and I'm looking down the hallway, and looks like a family is walking towards the direction. And I'm like, what in the world is going on? Like, why am I feeling like this? Like tremors, like. And then all of a sudden they come into the office. And I'm like, nobody comes in this office. Like, what are they doing in this office? And it's a dad, a mother, and 2 girls. So I'm confused. So I'm like, okay, there's got to be one of them. Which one is it? Not thinking about it at the time, it was the only one that was talking to me. Like she asked me, we talked about wrestling briefly, and we were interacting with each other. And I didn't even think about it was the one I interacted with, because I'm thinking, it's 2 options, which one? Yeah. So I kind of waited it out, and I was thinking, okay, I know how guys are at my school. Everybody's going to be attacking these girls and asking them to date. So I was just going to sit back. And
so they were new at the school in general?
Yeah, they were brand new. So they were being, everybody's, trying to get with them. So I had my buddy to this day, my buddy Jonathan. We had a business hall because I had business, and I figured out she walked down the main hall every day. So me and Jonathan, before we go to class, we wait on the corner, and she walked through, and I just wave at her every day.
Bring that mic with me.
I just wave at her every day as she walked by. So I just wave. And one night I got home, and I'm like, I got this feeling like, you got to talk to her tomorrow. And I'm just like, talk to her tomorrow? I got to talk to her tomorrow. Okay, I guess I got to.
You're like, I'm enjoying just the wave right now.
Yeah, because she got familiar with me, just waving at her. She expected it.
Yeah.
And so I was like, the pressure's on. I got to talk to her tomorrow. Okay, no problem. I talk to girls all the time. It's no big deal, right? No big deal. This is nothing. I'll get her number or whatever. Cool. Well, the day that I have to talk to her, she comes down the hall, and she's kind of dressed up, like really nice. She's got her hair in like a bun, and the sun is going through the window. It's hitting her just right. And it's like, if it's not more intimidating than this, she's like looking like beautiful, so crazy, like lit up, like. So I'm looking at her, and I go, and I wave, and I say, come here for a minute. And she comes over, I get to talking to her, and all I heard was she had a folder. And every time I got to talk to her, she said, I got a boyfriend. She showed a picture on her binder that she had a boyfriend. So I was expecting to get that. So I talked to her, and she didn't even say anything about a boyfriend. And I asked for a number, and she gave it to me.
Uh-oh.
And I was like, and my buddy was like, he's dapping me up and everything. And I was like, so I called her. I started, getting to know her and everything. And I was like, okay. And then, we actually went out a couple of times with some friends, and we had some very interesting moments. we took her to Opryland Hotel. She'd never been to Opryland. We took her to Opryland Hotels, took her around, and we had some very interesting moments in front of people that was kind of interesting. You know, it was kind of like a certain song come on, and we were like dancing, and we were like, it was just like, you know, I'm like a young boy, so, you know, things happen, and I'm just like, oh, you know, and it's like, and, you know, so we're having this, but then I found out that she has to go back home because she's only out there in Tennessee because she's helping her dad with her grandmother.
Oh, she has to go to Hawaii.
And she wanted to go home because it got cold and she didn't have any winter clothes. And she had slippers and she was like not prepared. So she was trying to get home anyway. So I found out she was going home and I was like, my heart was like freaking, felt like it was like ripped out of my chest. I'm like, this can't happen.
Yeah.
This can't happen, right? So I actually go to the airport pre 9/11, I guess. And so I'm out there and I meet her dad and her stepmom for breakfast. I'm talking to them. I get to go to security all the way to the gate.
Yeah.
Sit at the gate, right? Yeah. And so we're sitting there and I said, you got your license? And she's like, yeah, I got my license. Oh, no. I told him, no. It was what made me turn on license because I told him my middle name was Lee. And she's like, no way your middle name is Lee. I said, yeah. I said, you drive? Let me see your license, you know? And she's like, she pulls out her license because I want to see a Hawaii license. Mm. And literally her name is Brandy Lee Lever, right?
I was about to say.
My name is Brandon Lee Curry, right?
Yeah.
So
Brandon Lee Curry, and her name is Brandy
Lee Lever. So we were like, I'm like, oh my goodness. And I was like, she's like, no. I'm like, yes.
That's not much of a stretch. Like, whenever you talk about the name being similar, that's not much of a stretch at all. Like, that's pretty freaking. Yeah. That's basically the female version of your name.
Yeah. So I'm like, oh, wow. So literally, I'm like, we're shocked, we're looking at each other, we're like freaked out. And then she gets on the plane. I think we actually kind of go through the jet bridge. Watch her sit down. This is pre 9/11, right? Yeah. We have no tickets. Wow. And we're able to do this. And then I'm like, man, and we leave because it wasn't just me. It was some other friends that came as well. There were like 2 or 3 other friends that came. And so it was like, man, I was just tore up after that. I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to go to the prom. I didn't want to do anything after that because I'm thinking, okay, this is my future wife. Where's she going? And I was just kind of upset. I was mad.
So you kind of had like you saw the dream come true and then immediately left.
Yeah. Why did it go? Like, what's going on? Well, probably because I wasn't ready. Only because I wasn't ready for it. Right. I would have just messed that up.
I mean, it was still true either way, I guess.
I had some life to live and some things to learn. You know what I'm saying?
Back, you know, like that separation at that point was a good thing.
It was a necessary part of the process. When I was in Hawaii, I'll talk about this. When I was in Hawaii to be with her and support her for the competition. First of all, I spent, this is the most incredible experience now thinking back, is I booked a hotel, I booked a flight to Hawaii for like, I think it was 3 days, for like $1,000. All that. I don't know how that happened. I was staying in Waikiki, first of all.
That'd be nice.
And I was pretty much beachfront. I don't know how this happened, how I got this price, because I was making a lot of money. Yeah. And this was a big expense for me. But I went out there and I wanted to support her and see her through. So I went out there and she did her little contest. She actually won. She won her
and there's a theme of both of y'all.
The whole show. And you know, that's when I met Phil Heath. I met Sean Ray there. I met Bob Ciccarello. And when I met Phil Heath, we all met together outside in the front of the hotel, and then he disappeared. And we were like, where did Phil Heath go? And that's when I found out he was kind of shy, right? But at the show, he comes out and he does his posing routine and he poses in front of me, you know? And I'm like hype because I'm like, oh, this is crazy. Yeah. And then they had an audience like contest where you take your shirt off and they pick a guy from the audience to be the, you know. So I did it, and of course I won because I was getting ready for something myself. So it was like, it was really cool. Then I met her mom and her daughter. She had a daughter at the time, Zoe. And I met her mom and her daughter, and it was in a hotel. Her mom was staying in a hotel with her, and her mom just liked me. It was just interesting because when I met her dad also liked me, and I only met him one time before we got married, and I met her mom one time before we got married, and they just kind of liked me, and it was kind of spend a little time with them, and then we went walking on the beach one early morning, and she kind of showed me where she wanted to get married, and I'm thinking. And then she talked about moving to California. And she said we should prep for a show together. If I ever wanted to prep away from home, I should come and, we can prep together for a show.
Yeah.
So just to level set real quick, because we were bouncing around on the timeline a little bit. So this is now you guys have reconnected at the expo, then you reconnected afterwards. Now you've flown out to Hawaii to support her for her show.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Exactly. So this is before marriage. So I'm like, okay, cool. So I go back home. I have this great moment with her. My only instruction I know that's on me is like, I'm not doing this my own way. Because my way would be a little bit different. So I'm having to do things like, okay, I can't do this. Yeah. I can't push myself up on this woman like I want. Yeah. I have to take my time because this is not me. This is not my doing. So I have to treat it differently, right? So that's what I'm doing because I realize I can mess something up and I don't want to really mess anything up. So I'm playing really conservative. I'm like, any opportunities, I'm like kind of putting them on the back burner. I'm playing the patient game. Yeah. Because what happened to me previously is like I thought everything was in reach and then we get separated. So I don't know what's going to happen next. So I get back home, some drama back home. Like I was telling you a little bit earlier before the interview. And I got some special advice, about and maybe leaving town, about a particular guy in town. And I'm like, okay, there's a lot of drama. So I'm like, And then on Easter, my dog died. And I'm like, my dog, I got one 14 years old, and we had just rekindled. I had 2 other dogs, and this dog was staying with my mom and then my aunt. And I had just brought her back to me because I was in college. I was too busy for her, and she was staying with different people. So I brought her back to me. I had 2 other dogs I was afraid that she was going to kill because she didn't like other dogs. Yeah. She was an Akita.
What kind of dog was she?
Akita.
You just said that as I was asking the question.
And so, but for some reason, she, tried to get along with my dogs as much as possible. She didn't like them because they were younger and they were hyper, but she would only give them warning. She didn't like attack them or something when they didn't spend time with her. But, Easter, she died. And I'm like, man, this dog died. But that in my mind let me know, because I was in another relationship at the time, that, okay, this chapter is done.
You just felt finality with
this chapter's done. Like, because I knew for a fact that, this relationship was going to be done. I actually told my girlfriend at the time that I could date her for a little bit, but I said, one day, I'm probably going to leave you for a girl named Brandy.
Damn. And I love that confidence though. Like that was in your heart, bro.
I just had to because I was doing something. I was doing something I know I wasn't supposed to be doing.
Did you already?
But she was like, I was in college and she was like cooking for me every day. She's taking care of. She was a very nice girl, and I didn't really want to date, but it was like she was nice and she was pressuring me, and I just like, okay,
been there.
I will spend time with you, but look, you got to know this. Yeah. Because she started calling me her boyfriend before I officially. I'm like, hold up, whoa. I said, I'm not your boyfriend. What's this? And then she's like, and I'm just like, okay, look, you're a nice girl. I'll just. I'll try this with you. We can see if we can make this work. But I'm letting you know, I'm likely going to leave you for a girl named Brandy.
So had you reconnected with Brandy at that point?
Oh, through the years, yeah. That's when before that, no. When I told her that, no.
When you told her that,
no.
So it was really like
it's a dad period, right?
You were like really convinced.
Yeah, like, definitely. So, but
that's crazy.
But when the process started happening, and I started traveling more, and the bodybuilding was taking me places, and we met at the Olympia. Then it was like, okay, I'm in this situation, and I don't know, it's not bad, but I don't know how I'm going to end this situation. Sure.
But you think about you being in Murfreesboro, and you have this dream, and then you meet the person, but for all that you knew, she was in Hawaii, and you're never going to see her again, and you're talking to a person that you're dating. I mean, of course, like you said, it was more of a her.
I was dating, but we dated for about 5 years.
Okay. And then you tell that person like. Again, it's not
in the beginning. I told her in the beginning.
Yeah, but it's not like, I guess the thing that is like striking to me is like, it's not like you really had a relationship with Brandy at the time. So like, again, in your mind, for all you knew, you were never going to see her again, but clearly not. You know what I mean? It's just.
But in your heart, you know that was
wild.
true.
Yeah, it's just wild.
I know. It's like the blind faith thing, right?
Yeah.
So it's
of
like,
course.
So it's like.
But she's not down the road, too. Is my point. She's in freaking Hawaii. You're in Murfreesboro.
Well, first of all, what happened to me previously, for me, it was like possible. So I didn't throw out anything. as a possibility at that point, because so many things and coming up to that process was kind of like
the fact
shouldn't have happened anyway.
The fact you
Yeah.
even found her to begin with.
It's like wow. So it's like I can't just sit there and not consider it. You know, I have to be legitimate.
It's crazy
because what I ended up doing is I ended up kind of plan. I knew it was coming, so I ended up kind of planning on trying to be responsible because I didn't want to do it the bad way. So I wanted to kind of make sure if I left, this woman could support herself. She had what she needed. I just didn't leave her empty. So I was kind of doing things. I was like changing the lease up, and one of the vehicles I had, I put in her name, and I was trying to, I knew something was going to happen.
Yeah.
And then when it started and it was on me, and I'm like feeling the pressure, especially after that dog, I was like, look, I said, I think that time has come. I had to be honest. I said, it ain't nothing against you. I just said these things is, like I said, it's happening. And I don't know, I don't know what to tell you. I can't not do what I know I need to do. Mm-hmm. So I ended up moving out, staying with Kevin. I mean, you met Kevin Collins?
There's a good chance. But
he used to manage Olympic. Bald head guy, used to manage Olympus back in the day. I don't know how long you've been in Olympus.
I've only lived in Tennessee since like end of 2016. So
okay, because he passed away like a year ago. So, so Kevin, I moved in with Kevin, and I literally put a bed, slept in his kitchen. This is how it was on me that I needed to prepare myself for a transition. I didn't know when it was coming. I didn't know what, but I know I had to do that. So I
followed your heart, man. Your intuition was telling you. Like,
I needed to just. I didn't want to go into one situation with a bunch of baggage, and then right directly into another situation. I knew that wasn't going to be right. It wasn't going to be fair, So I needed to get to myself, and I needed to make sure that this other girl knew I was serious. She needed to know I was serious because she actually, was still, trying to make it work, trying to contact me, and I'm like, I'm really sleeping in this guy's kitchen. And with a bed in the kitchen and just go through these times and to figure out, okay, what's next. So eventually I ended up moving in with Sean's father, who recently passed too. Been roommates with him, Sean Barber.
Oh, yeah.
So we stayed in an apartment together, and I was talking to him about the whole situation. He thought I was crazy, but he's like, you're in love, because I was always on the phone with her, all throughout the night and stuff like that, because she was on a different time zone. Yeah. So basically I would. It's kind of similar to when I'm in Kuwait. I would talk to her till she went to bed.
Yeah, of course.
And so I would stay up at the wee hours of the morning. She'd go to bed, and then I go to bed early in the morning. It's kind of like how I do.
So it worked out.
Yeah. So we had a relationship. We kindled it, and then the opportunity came. Like I said, a lot of things happened, and it pushed me to make a move. So I ended up putting everything that I needed in a couple boxes. I told her, I'm gonna come out there and prep, ship those boxes. Gave my mom my truck, told her she can do whatever she wanted to. Just got rid of, all my attachments to Tennessee. And I went to California, and Brandy picked me up. She had just moved into an apartment, and she only picked near Camp Pendleton, San Diego area. Her sister was out there because her husband was in the military. He's a Marine. Okay, he was a sniper. So she moved out there with her sister. And so we were out there. We had she had a little bit of money. She had recently played blackjack and won I don't know if it's 30 or 60. She won a crazy amount of money playing blackjack off barely any money.
Yeah.
Right before I got there.
Hey, hold on 1 second.
So right before I got there, she had come won some money instantly. So much money that she was afraid to deposit into the bank. So she ended up sign a check over to an NFO friend that she had because she's doing with that money. He ended up giving her the cash money. So that was enough for her to make the move, get into the apartment, all this kind of stuff. Because she did modeling stuff too, but she it's a lot of money to make the transition. Yeah. So I ended up moving.
You're in California?
Yeah, I ended up moving to California with her, and I ended up staying there. So we ended up prepping, and we didn't have a car. Luckily, there's a 24-hour fitness and walking distance, and I'm prepping. Right. And she's walking everywhere. So his cardio was like mad nuts.
Yeah.
So we're just literally at the bottom scraping. And I'm getting a little bit of money because I had, as an amateur, I had got contracts with magazine companies and BSN, but they're paying me a little bit of money. But in my contract, when I go pro, I'm going to be making like six figures and everything's going to be looking good. So I'm preparing in California to go pro, make this transition in my life. and she's there with me. And it was like, okay, we're doing this. We're going to do this, you know? So she's sparring Muay Thai one day. And the message is, okay, I got frustrated on a lot of things, and I'm like, I can't do it myself. So the message is that she was going to be delivered into my hands. Don't ask me how I know this particularly, but this is the message. This is because this means hands off. You're not going to do anything. This is not going to be about you. You know what I'm saying? This is going to be delivered into your hands. So I'm there, and I'm in a proper position, and I'm just waiting. You know, I'm not asking her anything. I'm not pushing anything. So she goes and spars Muay Thai. She trains, and I'm there watching Zoe with her, and she's going through one of the most difficult sparring matches that I ever had. And I seen her spar with guys. I seen her spar with a lot of people, and she, obviously this one chick that came, she was just serious. And I'm like, man, I never seen her deal with anybody like this. So she got home, and you know, I know she was dealing with it, and she was like, it was rough. She's washing dishes, and she's looked up and she said, "We need to get married." And I was like, yeah, we need to get married.
Playing it cool.
Yeah. But here's why. I agreed. I was like, we need to get married. But here's what I didn't know how soon she meant. So I get up after she says that, and I go to the bedroom, and I just lay down on the bed. And she comes in there, and she says, "You didn't hear me? I said we need to get married." I'm like, "Yeah? I mean, what you mean, right now?" She's like, yeah, we could just go to Vegas, and, you know, we could do it. I'm like,
you're like, holy shit.
I'm like, okay.
That's wild.
I'm like, okay, cool. So we literally pack up. We on the way, we drop Zoe off. I think we drop her to her dad's because he actually lived in Vegas, right? So we go into look for a chapel, right? So we go looking for a chapel, and as we go to a chapel, and the chapel that we see, it's closed, right? But we know it's closed because she goes and she checks, and she goes up to the door, and somebody comes to the door, a guy in a priest outfit, and woman look like a hooker, right? Comes to the door and hands her a brochure. And she's like, she got the brochure. She's like, okay, they're closed. And this is a building that is not open yet. And we have to go to a different location. We'll go on tomorrow. We'll go to a hotel, get some sleep, and we'll go tomorrow. We'll get married first thing in the morning. So we could have got a limo to pick us up or whatever, but we decided we're going to drive, right?
Yeah.
So we go to the location. We drive, we don't even know that it's not the location yet, because we didn't really check the brochure. We're just going back to the same location because the guy didn't tell us that it was in that building. He didn't tell us that was in renovation or being built.
Yeah.
We found this out later, and then I think about it, because we pulled right where we wanted to turn. We wanted to make a left turn, and then we got to make a right turn in the parking lot, right? We make that left turn, and I run over something, and I'm like, what did I just hit? There was a motorcycle that was behind me. A dirt bike, right? Mm-hmm. Well, come to find out, this dirt bike tried to pass me turning left on the right. In some kind of way, his bike ended up under my car.
Oh, shit.
And I ran over it.
That changes plans.
And there's a lady standing right there in front of that chapel saying, when we got out the car, he pops up. I'm like, where did this guy come from? And she's saying, I saw the whole thing. And I'm like, this is weird. Like, this is just a weird experience, right?
Yeah.
And she's like, call the police. I saw the whole thing. And I'm like, hold on, wait a minute. We got to get married. Hold on, just assess the situation. You got the woman lady said she saw the whole thing. You got this guy pop up out of nowhere. He passed me on the wrong side. I'm not at fault. He's at fault. He put a dent in my car because he hit the side of the car at the same time. And I'm thinking, no, don't call the police. Don't call the police. I said, we got something to do. We got to get married. She said, we're about to get married. And she's like, what? What? And then the lady disappears out of nowhere. And then we help the guy with the bike, right? We help him up, take a piece of his bike that broke off, put it in the trunk. And this guy lives like a block away in these apartments. He walks his bike back to the house. So we drive over there, take his stuff out of the trunk, give him some water, and we go try to find the chapel because we realized the place we went was not the location. It was a new location. So we go there, and we go inside the place, And we handed them the brochure. We said, oh, yeah, you know, we were trying to get married. We went to the new place, and the guy gave us this. And she was like, looking at us like we were crazy. She's looking at us like we're crazy. She's like, no way. She's like, no one's supposed to be in there. That place is going through construction. Nobody's supposed to be in there tonight. We're like, no, a guy came out. He was dressed like a priest or whatever, and he came out with a girl looked like a hooker. She's like, no way. And she said,
definitely not us.
and she said, this brochure is an old brochure. She's like, this is several years old. We don't even make this brochure anymore.
So these guys are just walking around handing out.
So we're like, so who was that? Like, who handed us this brochure? Why was he in there? And we were like, so we were confused, and we were just like, and she's like, yeah, this is very weird because I haven't seen one of these brochures in forever. First of all, and she says, yeah, nobody's supposed to be in that place at all. It's under construction. I'm like, okay, and we're like, okay, we just want to get married, so we end up getting married, right? And we tried to call family and everything before. I think she called a couple of her family. She called her mom and everything before. She called her dad before. She called her mom. She told her she's about to get married. And then mom was like, okay, who are you going to get married to? What's going on? She said, I'm getting married to Brandon. And her mom's like, oh, okay. You know,
So
like no big deal.
Yeah.
And she's like, that's weird. And then she calls her dad. And she said, okay, Dad, you're sitting down? And she's like, why? He said, why, kid, Christina, where you at? She said, Dad, I'm about to get married. He was like, oh, don't tell me you're pregnant. She said, no, Dad, I'm not pregnant. I'm not even dating anybody. He said, well, who are you getting married to? I said, what? And he's about to get upset, you know? He's getting pissed. Mm-hmm. And she says, Dad, I'm going to get married to Brandon. And he goes, oh. He says, oh, that makes sense. And she said, what? And she freaked out. She said, what? It makes sense. And she freaks out on him, motherfucker. She's like, she expected him to, react, you know? And he doesn't. He's cool. And he only met me one time, you know? So I'm scratching my head like, what in the world? And she's like, it makes sense. So we were like, and then I end up calling my family because they didn't pick up before or after. And everybody's like, oh, yeah. That's, congratulations. We knew that was going to happen. And
That's crazy.
This and that. So I'm thinking.
So it was all faded.
Yeah. Everybody was like no problem, no issue. We're like, okay, this is just free. This was weird. It was weird to us, right? So that's
just a weird ass day, anyways.
Yeah, I was about to say this was a crazy day.
Like literally the day, I was determined there wasn't nothing going to stop us,
right,
from getting married. And I don't know if they tried to. I believe looking back, that was probably a scam.
Yeah, no, I was. Something weird was going on.
A Vegas scam because the guy had a witness there, standing right there on the corner.
I was going to say that earlier. It sounds like you almost got
scammed, but we didn't go with it. We just was like, no, don't call the police, don't do any of this.
Yeah,
we were like, this doesn't make any sense.
That was probably smart of you.
A lot of people probably fall for this shit.
Yeah, because it's Vegas,
Yeah,
they're running. So that's basically how the marriage thing happened.
Yeah.
So she was with me. Basically, we prepped. So when I turned pro. Basically she helped me arrange my diet and everything. We learned everything from the magazines that we knew because I didn't have my coach anymore, right? And then Silvio Samuel was another pro who helped me. He really had a thing for Brandy. He was a big fan, right? So that came to my advantage because he was like willing to help me.
Yeah.
Get ready for the show. Nice. Get ready for the show. So he helped me, and I came in condition. I ended up winning, and then that really helped us because it got us a lot of money, a lot more money.
That was the show that made you a pro.
Yeah, that made me a pro. So that really just
that was a big change.
Just took off in my whole life. I was making money now. I was legit making it just off bodybuilding. And that really changed the game. And fortunately, I've been doing that pretty much ever since. But that was the transitional phase for me. And then we started having babies.
It's funny because I get a lot of people, oh, you're not going to be able to do this or that, or you're going to have to slow down the travel. I'm like, one, they're coming into our life, and we're bringing them along for our ride. Yes, they make it. There's a lot more to it when they're there, but she's coming into our life, and like people are like, oh, you're not going to be able to do this, but they live those. They all live the same kind of lifestyle.
Normal life, right?
That normal life. My life's never been normal. Right. I've always chosen to. That's just not me. Right. It never will be. So no, we're gonna make it happen. It's kind of cool too because it's like y'all just watch and see, man. Our daughter's gonna have a cool experience.
I've come from the same kind of experiences. My life never been like the normal route. So, it's kind of like you kind of ask advice from people that kind of live a normal life and like that doesn't really fit. It doesn't really fit how we do how I have to do things. Yeah. And so it's like I said, we got got married, and turned pro, and then started having kids like right away. So my wife got pregnant in California. So she realized, okay, her mom passed away, and her sister, it was a little sketchy at that point. Like, they were going to relocate as well. So we were going to be the only people there. So my wife wanted to be closer to family. So she said, okay, I want to be closer to your family. So instead of moving to Hawaii, which would have been crazy expensive, we decided, okay, she wanted to come to Tennessee.
Yeah.
So during that pregnancy, what we did, we went to the Olympia, right? We took our car from Vegas. We shipped it from Vegas. We had packed up one of those what's those travel units that they put on trucks, a pod. We packed up a pod at our apartment. It was going to be picked up as soon as we left for the Olympia, shipped across the country. We were going to drive our car to Vegas. Our car was going to be picked up from Vegas and shipped across the country, and we would fly to Nashville. So we flew to Nashville. We stayed with my mom for a few days until the car got there. And then Sean had to deal with an apartment complex at Casey Lane. Mm-hmm. So we got there, and we got a place there. And we didn't really have any doctors, really. We saw a couple doctor in California, but when we got to Tennessee, we didn't have a doctor. And she's far along, and she was going to deliver soon. So my wife's a champ. She's like, she didn't want to have a baby in the hospital anymore because she had a bad experience. So we ended up getting a midwife, and she had a baby in her garden tub at the apartment. Damn. So I've never had the experience of seeing my kid born in a hospital, which is probably a weird thing. Yeah.
That is some savage shit.
All my boys were born literally in my home.
That's cool, man.
And it was the best experience for us because she got to set the environment that she liked. She actually started a trend with the midwife company to where she wanted candles. Like, she wanted it low light. She wanted it candle lit. And so
super relaxed.
So they're super relaxed. So the midwife had to improvise. And she decided she was going to bring headlamps. So now she brings headlamps to like every one of her births because it's just she can see everything. It lights everything up. So she had it in my first son in a garden tub, and it was a great experience for me. It was just like, man, it's incredible. I got so much respect for her. And then she had delivered a baby, got up in the morning, made breakfast. I was like, it was like, and Zoe had to go to kindergarten. She had to go to school. So it was just like,
she sounds like an absolute badass.
Business as usual. So me, I'm kind of like, I don't know how like unusual, incredible that is because it's my only experience. But then she has to remind me that this is not the normal.
How many do you have, by the way?
I have three boys. So we have 4 children.
3 boys.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah,
and that's really cool, man. Well, because at the end of the day, she understands there's a goal. Yeah. And like, there's more to it because like that goal and everything, a part of that is only going to bleed into your family and like in a positive way. Right. And so it's, you want to take the time, but you can't really because you understand how crucial it is to be on top of shit, you know?
So being that, so I took a season off, and then I would, because the baby, and then I want to compete the next year. So during that transition, I had, in order to do my pro qualifier, I'd started with my old coach that I had to drop because he left the company. So that process, I started traveling a lot. So this is me. I went to Russia. I went to Australia. I think I went to Germany that year. And I was just on this tour, and we cleared it with my coach. But he had kind of forgot that I was on this extensive schedule. We got back with him to regroup. And he was apprehensive about this prep. So he didn't want to take me on and finish the prep. So fortunately for me, Flex Lewis had moved to the area he was training at Olympus. So I met his coach, and I told him about my situation, and his coach decided to prep me for my first show. So this is me trying to balance, being a dad and now competing. And it was a big responsibility for me because, I want to be a good dad. And, for me, when you prioritize things, family goes first,
Of course.
So sometimes I would kind of relinquish some of my responsibilities because I'm helping. Yeah. Trying to be a good dad. So, so I was able to be successful. Neil actually took me to my first Olympia that year. And that's when I got 8th at my first Olympia. So everything was still going good. But it was after that the family kept growing. I had another kid at home. And he was born in the bed because he was stubborn. He didn't want to be born in the tub. So he was born in our bed.
That's awesome.
Because his head was his head wasn't straight, so she literally had to straighten his head. Because he was born, something where the spine was like off, his head was like this.
Okay.
And it was easy as a chiropractic adjustment to fix it after he got out, but that's what made him hard to come out because he wasn't coming straight out.
Oh, okay.
So she literally had to adjust the head, and then when she pushed, he would come straight out. So he's a little bit more stubborn, and he's a little bit different to this day because
that is intense.
So he was, and then my third son was also born at home, but he was born in a birthing tub.
Okay.
So that was a different experience altogether. So it was cool because now I have this other responsibility of like being a dad, trying to be helpful as a husband, and then trying to compete. So eventually, I had won a show in Brazil. So I had one successful win, but my wins were far in between. They had me anticipated to do things a lot quicker than I actually did. So people started talking about retirement for me early in my career, and he's not doing this, he's lazy. Everybody was talking down on me because I wasn't doing as well as expected. I wasn't living up to the hype.
Yeah.
And so I was still able to make money and be supported because the magazine still existed, and I had that relationship. But after the magazines kind of went down and social media started taking, then I noticed things started changing in my career. I lost
readjust.
Yeah, I lost contracts because the magazines, the magazines and the supplement company deals were kind of connected.
Yeah,
because they do deals together, which they do deals together behind your back. They both pay athletes because it's incentive to have you in their magazine.
Of course.
And they're paying the athletes for ads and all. I mean, paying the magazine for ads, and you getting paid by both entities.
But social media takes away from all that.
Yeah, social media took away from that relationship because the magazine started dying, so the ads are not worth as much.
So you had to pivot.
So I had to pivot, and plus I wasn't performing as well. So that's when my wife, she sees things before I see them all the time. Like, she's the one who told me I should have been a bodybuilder, right? Mm-hmm. So she says, she asked me one time, she says, if they asked you to come to Oxygen Gym, would you go? So in order to not even think about it, not even consider it, I said, no. I didn't want to have a conversation about it. So I go and I'm struggling to get back on top. So it's 2016. I did like 6 shows just to qualify for the Olympia on points.
Yeah.
So I didn't even win. So my body's going to be dead going into the Olympia. I'm not expected to do anything because I'm pretty much burnt out. But I'm going for motivation. This is what I'm going. I'm going for motivation. I know if I go there, I'm around greatness. I'm around the environment.
Of course.
Something's going to
like that
click
fire
and drive me, to be better for the next season.
Yeah.
So I go and go through prejudging and everything, and I see my buddy Victor, who had a major comeback year after falling off, and he's working with a new coach from Kuwait, Oxygen Gym team. So I see them after prejudging, and I go up and I say, "What's up to Vic?" And I congratulated his coach on the good work that he's doing, and says, "Man, you're just doing a good job with Vic, man. Congratulations to you guys." And his coach looks at me and he says, "You want to come to Kuwait?" And he says, "I think I can make you top 6 in the world." And I said, okay. Yeah. I said, well, you know what? I said, I'll be in Kuwait in 2 weeks because I'm going to do the Kuwait Classic. So we can talk about it then. I'll think about it. We can talk about it then. Just so happened it was lined up, right?
Yeah.
So he really so I told my wife about it. She says, well, there you go. What are you going to do? So, my wife's pressuring me to stay in contact and stuff. And I'm a little stubborn with that. And because I'm being patient, and I'm like, okay, time's going to come. It's going to come. So we get to talking. I get to Kuwait.
Every single episode. Every single time.
No, it's been better last couple of episodes actually. I just didn't know this was going to go this long, so I was like, all right.
I get to Kuwait, right? And my coach, my now coach, he picks me up and he starts giving me the rundown. When he met me like in Germany in like 2010. This is 2016 now. And he said, I came up to you as like my favorite and I always wanted to work with you. And he starts telling me what shows I look the best in and asked me what, and he's
interesting.
And then he lays out this whole game plan of what we're going to do the next season. I'm like, this guy's got it laid out already. Like, it's like, how can I say no?
He's got a whole blueprint.
Come to find out, he didn't even get the okay for me to come to Kuwait from Batter, who runs the gym. He didn't even get the okay, right? He's just a gun hole dude.
He was just like,
and I just show up, and they're like, what is he doing here? And he's like, I want to work with them, and so I'm just like, I didn't even know that. I just kind of showed up, and then we took 11 weeks because they wouldn't let us do the Arnold, which was in 10 weeks. So we did the show right after.
Okay.
In 11 weeks, and we took 11-week prep, and I went there, and it just totally changed my body in 11 weeks. I mean, totally different. I did off season and cut at the same time, but I was a total different bodybuilder just from being isolated and being able to focus on my career,
of course,
and bodybuilding alone without all my other responsibilities.
It's like when a boxer goes away for a fight.
Yeah. So we went out and I went out and I won the New Zealand. And I beat the guy who had just placed second at the Arnold, which we should have probably did, and then. I did very next week, I did the Australian Arnold, and I won that. So we come out with a bang, and it just like revitalized my career.
So this coach's gym was in Kuwait.
Yeah, Oxygen Gym.
And so that's what kind of started the international.
Well, it had already started. It had already started, and that's when my wife asked me if they asked me to go, would I go? And I said no. So this it had already started.
You had already started doing international?
The other bodybuilders. Other bodybuilders had already been out there. So other pros that had already get their taste, and that's how I knew who the coach, knew to talk to the coach, and he worked with Victor, who was out there getting ready, which was an old friend of mine.
Gotcha.
So that's how we kind of connected. So I worked with the same coach, and like I said, he believed in me when nobody else believed in me. Like nobody else believed in me but this guy. He was like,
you said there was a bunch of stuff swirling around your career at that point. People talking about retirement, and then this guy says, "Hey, come out. I'm going to make you top 6 in the world."
Yes.
And so the New Zealand one, was that your first international competition?
Yeah, that wasn't my first. Well, was it my first international competition? Maybe no. Brazil was, because Brazil was when I won. I won the first Brazil, but this was like my first come up from being
right,
because it was 2013 when I won my first pro show. So this is 2017 for me to actually win again.
Gotcha.
So it's been I fell off, and I got depressed. I lost contracts, and I really didn't know what I was going to do. That's the first time I actually ever got noticed. I didn't know what depression was.
Yeah.
Until that year that I lost my contract, and I realized I got this family. And I got mouths to feed.
That's heavy shit, yeah.
Fortunately, I made enough money to where we basically lived off the bank account, and we did have a clothing line at that point to where we made a little bit of money too. So we were able to survive that year till my wife negotiated another contract. So it was just like, but it was like for me, it was like I felt and the thing about it, I was just like I was so in my head, so in my feelings that I was unproductive.
Yeah.
I was so, because I'd never been to that place before, but being at that place, I could sympathize. Yeah. Because when you're in that point, you're kind of sitting there and you're not doing anything. You're just in your feelings.
Yeah.
It's like, no, do something. Don't just sit here and feel sorry for yourself.
Dude, that's how
I know you're going to jump hard on this one because we talk about this all the time. So I'm glad that you brought it up, and it's been like a theme that's come up naturally through the podcast. It's like mental health, and in particular men's mental health, but we talk about mental health even with the females that come on. But so you can take it wherever you want to go. But I was just gonna pop in there too, and this, I don't know where you were gonna go with it, but was that given where you were at doing that international circuit and seeing that not only could because I guess before that, if you hadn't done the international stuff, it was more. I know you'd done the national shows. And you've been pretty successful, but kind of feeling like unsure of yourself, and then going and competing with people, internationally from across the world in other countries. Was that just a huge? Is that what was able to get your confidence back? I guess was that
the thing that was able to get my confidence back was winning again,
just in general,
and the change in my physique, able to be productive, and having a situation that was stable where I didn't have to worry about, because in Kuwait I don't have to worry about anything, no needs, everything is pretty much provided for me, taken care of, and so I'm not having to worry about if I have this and my preparation, and I'm not having to balance anything else. I'm just there to focus.
You're off at war,
and then it's like this. It's like, okay, I have to succeed at this point. I'm spending this time away from my family. And I'm spending this time away. I can't make this time unproductive.
Of course.
So I have to take this time I have and put everything I can into it, because I can't come back a failure,
Right.
I can't come back with nothing and spending all this time. So that was my motivation. So that separation from something that I loved, that comfort zone that I thought I needed, that was good for me as far as motivation. and get me in that mindset. Okay, it's on you. You have to put in this work now. You have to make something out of this opportunity, because if you don't, you failed everybody.
Right.
Everybody back home that's looking up to you.
It really is like that boxer that goes away, before a big fight and separates from the family and stuff, and just again, it's like warriors in general. You
it's
were
a
like
different mentality.
A warrior that went away.
It pulls something out of you that you can't get in your comfort zone.
Literally went away overseas, training in foreign lands, going and competing in foreign lands, and on top of that, because you're winning, and that's just something I was thinking about a second ago too, was like you're going on these people's turf in their home countries and taking these victories to bring it back home to your family is freaking awesome.
Yeah, it's badass.
So it's like that's what I'm saying. So I needed that. I needed it. I didn't know that I needed it, but just being the type of personality that I am, I needed that switch. I needed to be that situation, separate myself from my comfort zone, and just be able to just put in the work and earn my keep, and that changed the game for me as far as bodybuilding my career, and we were able to be successful with that template, and that's what helped me earn my title. And like I said, if it wasn't for the relationships, having somebody that's in line with me, coach believing in the same thing, because I didn't stop believing. I just was, it's more like, okay, when is it coming? It's like, I got to be patient. Like, it's like, this is a long wait. And, everybody's doubting me and all the pressures, and everybody wants to be against me. Everybody's forecasting the worst. And it's like, I know better, but okay, when is it coming? Like, so basically I spend most of my time looking for doors to open. Mm-hmm. I'm like, okay, this door's closed, but at some point this door's going to open. So when it came to opportunity to go out, took away, that was just another door. It's another door to open to say, okay, this way, go this way. Right. This is where you need to be. Yeah. And just being able to just do that, take the risks, not worrying about, what could go wrong, not getting in your head about fear and failure, and just saying, okay, this is what I got. Now I got an opportunity to make something of it.
Man.
I know. So we got about 10 minutes left in this segment. I don't know if it's going to be the last segment, but we got about 10 minutes left. So, I feel like you probably want to go somewhere with the mental health thing that he was talking about there, right?
Oh, no, I was just, it's all so relatable. Like, being down that, because you talked about the depression thing. You're like, now I can empathize with people because, like, I've been there, and I always had this mentality of, like, it's just depression, and that's just, like, made up. They want you to think that that's a thing, but then, I went through what I did. I told you about the whole thing with my ex and losing, like, the house and all this stuff. And I moved to Murfreesboro, and I was just, dude, I was right there for months. I was drinking a bottle or two of wine every night. I just was like, I felt so unproductive. I still had the brand going, but the creativity was just gone, and, I will say a huge contribution to, like, things just changing is, my woman. Like, she came into my life. I knew the day I met her, I was like, this is it. I was like, this is the one I'm spending the rest of my life with. I knew, man, and I always, like, hated the whole, when you know, but, like, no shit, like, I knew right away,
Relationships are everything.
Yeah, man, and I tell you what, she's, like, ever since day one, believing the fuck out of me, like, helping me, like, hey, you're going through some shit. You're having anxiety attacks, like, go to therapy, like, I want to help you, or, like, you're going to go for this building, go all out. Like, I got your back. Like, I support you. I'm always here. And, man, and that's so huge and so important. But, yeah, that was, like, definitely a huge switch for me. But then, talking about it, we talked about working from home and how that can just be old. And I'm telling you, just doing stuff from the house, I was just like, man, there's no creativity. I don't have any new ideas. I just feel so stagnant. And that's what you have to do sometimes. Like you said, like with the oxygen opportunity, like you had to go all in. And it's the same thing when I moved in this building, I was like, bro, there's a lot of shit here. There's overhead. I spent a ton of money coming into it. I put every chip in the middle. I said, but when I started that though, this is, I was like, I have to be all in. You know what I'm saying? There's no way to go back. Like, I have to 110% focus on everything. And, man, I tell you what, when you just, like I said, when you've earned the boats and you got that support, man, you can go so freaking far. All you got to do is focus. And
I always came up with I always thought about the saying, you got to be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And that's the hard part. It's like you're uncomfortable, But you got to embrace that that discomfort in order to get to where you're going. So whenever you make these big decisions, or you feel like, okay, this is bad. You're like, okay, I gotta do this. It's like, okay, it's uncomfortable. But just get uncomfortable with that, because that's the most productive thing for you.
Yeah.
Because if it didn't come, what would you be doing?
Yeah.
You wouldn't be trying to be. So that's what I'm saying. That's the difference between falling into that state of depression, because that state of depression, you feel like, oh man, it's helpless. You don't know what to do. You're feeling bad for yourself, and you're unproductive.
Yeah.
You're not taking an opportunity, that pressure.
You're not trying to be unproductive.
Right.
You're just like, naturally, you almost can't help it. You're just like, I don't know. You feel stuck.
Yeah.
And you're just like, I don't know which way to go. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Well, what I want to touch on it too, to make sure that we hit on this, I think anytime that we have somebody on that talks about feeling this way, and everybody deals with it in different ways, but as far as mental health and just as far as just struggles in general, people have different struggles, but everybody struggles, and everybody can relate on that, But we have a lot of people on here, obviously, that are business owners or have brands or have, a public image, or in your case, a champion, literally. And so, like, the part that I try to hit on whenever we have people that are in those spots, that are willing to say, like, hey, I've been in those spots of depression or anxiety, or I've doubted myself, and like these kind of things. Like, I think that even though, like, yeah, you're a human being, I think that people would be surprised to hear, oh, Brandon Curry was depressed and doubting himself and anxious and didn't know where his career was going. And Brandon Curry was, in a spot whenever he was doing these international shows that I've seen him do, where, he's doing this to bring it back home to his family, his growing family with his children. Like, you're a real person too, and you deal with real stuff too. And so I guess my question, if there's a question here, or I guess my prompt is, like, whenever people hear that and they hear, again, they're like, I would have never thought that Brandon Curry would feel this way. You know what I mean? He's this big, strong guy, and I talk about it with him all the time. That's why I appreciate that he shares, because people see him and they just think, big, strong dude, if they know his story, it's like, oh, he's been through a motorcycle wreck, and he's, like you said, you wouldn't even know it, seeing him walk around. I'm sure nothing gets to him. Like, he's a good-looking dude, he's getting to get, what could he possibly have to, like, worry about, or, look at him, blah, blah, blah. So, like, that's one of the reasons why I appreciate him saying that. So I guess, again, my question, if there is one, or I guess I'm asking you to elaborate on that a little bit, as far as, like, the willingness to say that you're struggling, like that you just did. And I guess for people that are in that situation, you talked a little bit about how you got out of it, but I guess how that it's important to be vulnerable in that way, and people that would think that, that you wouldn't experience those kind of things because of the way that you look, or because you're a champion, or like,
I understand where you go.
Does that make any sense?
Life by nature is trials and tribulations.
Yeah.
So forget Hollywood, forget fantasy, forget all this perfect stories and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Life, you're going to go through something at some point. It's just a matter of time, and it's not to destroy you, as you may fear. It is actually to better you in some form or fashion.
Always.
And it's like you have to remember that. But sometimes you can't grasp that, and that's why relationships are so important. And that's why, being vulnerable to people that care about you or love you, and in sharing that, they understand. Okay, I see this is a weakness.
Yeah.
I see this issue, and then they can help encourage you or help remind you of those things that you may not be so able to focus on at different times. And that's the support, that's the relationship. So you have to have these things. We need each other. We're not all here put together just to ignore each other and just only compete with each other.
Yeah.
We're here to rely on each other, have relationships with each other, and just share experiences with each other. And the more people that you have in your life, or you have in your life to do that with, the better that you guys kind of grow and feed off each other, because you realize you're not going through different things in life alone.
Yep. And
you're going to go through things. It's just a matter of time. So it's one of those things you can't fear or think that you're alone or you're the only person, because that's when it's a trick. That's the trick.
Of course.
And psychologically, it gets you trapped in a box to where you feel like defeated and you feel like nobody can relate to you. The truth is, it may not be the same situation, but somebody can always relate to any struggle or situation you're going through.
Man, we talked about that a million times on here. Like, you know, your situation is totally different from somebody else's, but you know, being in a motorcycle wreck and almost dying, like a lot of people are like, oh, there's nothing like that. And I'm like, but there is similarities in your struggles with other individuals, man. Everybody's going through their own shit. It doesn't matter the level of it. It impacts you on your own way. Like some things are going to hit harder than you expect them to, you know what I'm saying? But that's just part of life.
Like if you've been raised in the dirt, it's going to take a lot for something to impact you. So your situation may be like, okay, that's horrific, but you were raised in the dirt. You know, you bred tough. If you were raised in a castle, you know, and everything's going right, then you fall and trip and break your nail. You know, that's going to be a big issue for you. Yeah. Psychologically, it's the same experience.
Yeah,
it's just it looks totally different, but psychologically, you're going to be dealing with the same thing because it's only based on what you know.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
What you've experienced before.
Exactly.
So it's like even though you think something may be minor or something, or you may think something's insignificant. Well, depending on what that person has been through,
100%.
It may trash their world.
Exactly.
You know?
There's no need to make comparison.
Yeah, it's no comparison because the feeling and the humanness of it is very, very similar. Exactly. And the process of getting out of it is very, very similar. So
I think that's much more important to focus on, right? Instead of you wouldn't understand because you didn't go through that. It's like, well, no, not that specifically, but everybody can relate on struggles. And there's a lot of things that are like, like how many times have you heard it put in different ways? You know, you're the sum of the 5 people around you. Your net worth is the sum of the 5 people around you. Relationships are important. It's put in 1,000 different ways, but it's because it's so universally true that, you know, that those things are important. And I can definitely attest to that as well. And my girl, as we talk about on here, my fiance now, she's been the same way. I mean, I left school to start a YouTube channel, you know, and a lot of girls would have been like, you're out of your mind. And we were in it for the long haul, but because we're in it for the long haul, there's a lot of, you know, that was a particular time where she would have been like, you know, could have been like, yeah, no. And that sounds crazy, even looking back on it now. So it was even crazier then. And then I left my job to start my business, and that has its ups and downs all the time. And it's without that unconditional support,
right.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know how people do it. And we've actually had a couple people on here, Danny, as a case that comes to mind, that and again, this is why I bring this up with people that are successful. As her specifically, I've been working with her for about 4 years. And so I've seen her growth, and I've seen how, you know, whatever, and she's absolutely killing it. And she's, et cetera. She's starting to become a national thing, and she wants to be on Good Morning America and all this stuff. But she was kind of describing like struggles that she has with her relationships and in her personal life. And I straight up asked her, like, you know, if you're 5 to 10 years from now, let's say your brand is everywhere you want it to be, but you still have these struggles that you're talking about in your personal life and with your relationships, and not having somebody to share it with and all this kind of stuff, and not having somebody with that unconditional support. Because she brought that up specifically. She said people that have that, you know, don't understand what they have unless you don't have it. Yeah. And I said, would you make that trade? Your brand gets to where it needs to be, but your life personally is still, you know, not, love you, Danny, it's not like that. But these are from her own words. And she said that no, she wouldn't make that trade, you know. And so I think, you know, it really is hugely, hugely, hugely important. And I've been with my girlfriend my fiance, damn it, for almost 7 years. And we were together for almost 3 years prior to that. So, I mean, she's always been that way and always been in my life. And like, I always try to take a moment and step back and appreciate how important that is. You know,
it's important. It's very important because we have this concept that you know, from some point in life we're going to reach this utopic or paradise. You know, and the simple fact of the matter is
you're going to get there at some point.
The simple matter is that's an imaginary place, because you know, even if you financially achieve everything you want to achieve, then there's always health that could affect you. There's always something that's going to challenge you in life, no matter how people perceive you from the outside. It's always something internally that's gonna challenge you in life. So it's not an area that you can reach and says, I've achieved this and nothing's gonna affect me. That's an illusion that we sell people on social media. Yeah. You know, that's this place that doesn't exist, but everybody's trying to get there. The true fact of the matter is you're gonna grind, you're gonna have ups and downs, and you have to expect it. You have to expect it. You have to have the people, the support system that you can fall back on, that you can say, look, people I can talk to, look, I'm dealing with this. This is bothering me, or I'm struggling with this. You have to be able to communicate these things, because the last thing you want people to think about you is that you're Superman.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you don't need anybody.
Yeah,
I mean, because then when you fall, that person is looking up to you. They're gonna fall with you.
That's exactly why I asked this question, because I think people would look at you and be like, "Oh, he is Superman." So I think hearing it from your mouth say, like, "Look, think what you want about me, but it's important to communicate these things." You know what I mean?
It's definitely important. It's definitely important because we're not here alone. And like I say, as much as somebody can accomplish, we only see the highlight reel. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
You don't see any of the other stuff because we're not allowed to be. We have privacy at this point. We're not allowed to, see everything. And most people are not going to put.
Right.
They're going to put the highlight reel out there. They're
Right.
not going to put out everything because. Right. So we have to understand it about the things that we see, that we admire. And a lot of times I see people that say, your circle should only be filled with a certain group of people if you want to go a certain place. But you got to have those people that are not of that caliber to remind you where you've been, where you could be, and to be able to give an aid to people.
Yeah, because you're necessary for them as well.
Exactly.
They need to grow.
So you can't push people just because they're not, where you want to go.
Yeah.
You can't push them out of your life and say, I don't need them, because no. Because any day, any situation can set you back.
Unless those people are pulling you down, though, right?
But pulling you down is one of those things that you have to say, okay, you have to manage people in your life. They can only pull you down if you allow them to pull you down, right? So if you have influences that are detrimental to your life, you may have to, remove yourself from people because of those influences. You don't eliminate them. You just remove yourself from the influences because you know that those influences can affect you. But if that person calls you and, wants to talk about something,
exactly,
you want to be there for them. You don't want to totally ignore these people and shut these out because, you want to be able to, when they make that transition and they're ready to move to a place you are, you want to be there for them. Exactly. You don't want to say, I don't want to bore them. You maybe have to say, look, man, I can't do that. I can't be there with you because, it's not a point in my life. But, if you need somebody to talk to, if you need somebody to communicate, I'm here for you.
When you're ready.
Right.
Exactly. When you're ready, I'm here.
Exactly. Because we need each other, and those people that may not be where you want to be.
Yeah,
exactly. They're gonna need you, So you can't be selfish in those ways because a lot of times we like to click up and, our pride gets to where we want to be at this status and we want to appear to be that, and we forget about the people that may need us. And maybe,
you didn't have to come on this show today.
No.
You know what I mean? If you didn't believe that, if you didn't live that out, then you would have been like, oh no, I'm good on that.
And one thing I want to say is, you talked about
I interrupted you a minute ago. Sorry about that.
Bastard. No. But one thing I wanted to say is, talked about like when everybody can't think you're Superman. And like, I've always been very authentic. I shared my, thing from my accident and stuff like that and things prior to that in my life. But then, for a while there, like things seemed good, but I really was taking a beating mentally from like my home life at the time. But anyways, moving forward and like kind of going through my little stage I did, like I told you when I was depressed, it was weird how many people kind of expected. They're like, man, something's going on with the brand. Like, you're not the same. People coming at me like, what are you doing? And it's like, motherfuckers, like, I'm human too. Like, I'm going through a hard fucking time. Let me reset. Let me figure my stuff out. Am I supposed to play this perfect thing? Like, I'm not going to do that. But that's what people, it's funny because when you say that, because people build that expectation off of your positivity or whoever you are, you know what I'm saying? So that was just something I definitely connected with on a big scale. And I lost a few people from that because.
Well, you're also at the time that all that was going on, you're going through a divorce, you're moving, it's like, it's not like it wasn't legitimate in some, in a lot of ways. And so people on the outside, it's like, You're Joe Adams. You're Brandon Curry. You're not allowed to.
But at some point, this is what that teaches. That teaches me in general is you gotta have reasonable expectations of people.
Oh,
like reasonable expectations. We're all human, right? We basically judge everything based on what we sense and see, and we make these strong judgments and assertions about different things, and we don't really know nothing. In detail, So you have to expect that from humans in general. You have to literally expect that. So, because if you set that, if you don't, then you set yourself up for disappointment and resentment all the freaking time. All the freaking time. You expect human beings to be human beings?
No.
You expect them to be because at the end of the day, we're not all knowing. We don't know the inside of anything. Mm-hmm. So when people judge me, I have to remind myself, okay, They're only judging me from a point of
their
view.
perspective.
Yeah, because I haven't let them inside.
I feel like you've read the book, The Four Agreements.
I was about to bring it up.
I'm gonna get you a copy. Do you like reading?
No, we talked about it last. I think
It's
we talked
easy
about
to
it last
read.
time too.
I think you love it, but it talks. One of the main points is 4 agreements, but one of the main things is like don't have expectations,
Right. And don't make assumptions.
don't make assumptions.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, but it's talk about freeing your mind and stuff of like the prison that it's been grown into because everybody else is telling you what you're supposed to think and all these things. And you said earlier that everybody thinks there's supposed to be some utopia you work towards. It's like someone that plays the lottery every day because they think that's going to fix their fucking problems. Thing is, when they win that $5 million, they still have the same problems, just with more money added to it.
And that's what destroys most of them.
Yes. And so,
100%.
that utopia is here though, man. And one of my favorite quotes is like, you can make a hell of heaven or a heaven of hell. And it's all in here and in your heart. And I think, that's just really what it comes down to. Like, yeah, you can be in a bad situation, but really you have the choice to make it what it is, if that makes sense, right? And
The thing about the bad situation is every time you're in a bad situation,
it's necessary.
there's always something that you can be grateful and have gratitude for.
Yeah.
But the thing is, we tend to focus
Yep.
on the negative and the bad situation so much that we refuse to look outside of it. I often find this when I deal with people that are in that mindset and they get that anxiety and they're on that tangent to where they're in the negative mindset and you want to just say, whoa. Look at this. Yeah, you're dealing with this right now. This is the pressure that you're under right now. But this 100%. Is not all your life is at this point.
Exactly. Yep.
And sometimes we get so focused on the negative that we don't even look outside of it. And it's no matter how big or small the problem is, you can always say, okay, this is wrong. But we had to do this with my son yesterday. He was in a bad mood. And we were like, and my wife had to sit him down and say, okay, give me 10 things that you're grateful for. Because he was in a nasty mood. And that's out of nowhere. He didn't want to deal with anybody. And he sat down and she said, nope, you got to sit down and think about it. So he started naming things. He got to 5 and he started feeling better. And then, he gets past 10 and he's laughing. He forgets how many things he's grateful for. Because he was only so focused on whatever was making him upset that he put himself in a reality that he didn't necessarily have to be stuck in.
That's a fantastic practice for her to do, like especially to teach a child that. And I keep a gratitude log that I try to do every day. I try to write down 3 things.
Same in my planner.
Yep, and I think that it's one of the best things. I also have one. I have a pride and a gratitude. So I write down things I'm proud of that I've done, and I write down things that I'm grateful for. And at the top of it, it says, big or small, what is something, 3 things that you're appreciative of, thankful for, grateful for today, right? And I think one of the reasons why it's such a great practice is because if you do it on a daily basis, it does reprogram your mind to be looking for those things because it's a daily thing of taking your mind there. Okay, what am I grateful for today? Boom, boom, boom. So then let's say I'm getting in a good practice of that, as the day goes by, something will happen and I'll remember to write it down because I felt that gratitude and I noticed that I felt that gratitude. So it teaches you to look for those things. It teaches you to acknowledge when that feeling of gratitude and appreciation comes up. So I think that's another great reason why you should do it. I think that's awesome.
I mean, in every situation that's negative or not ideal,
that's what I was going to say is once per episode too.
Yeah. And I'll talk about it with my woman. Like we'll be in the house, in the evening. And a lot of times I'll eat like an edible just to kind of mellow out, get some good sleep. And that's for some reason I like to talk a lot too sometimes. And we'll be talking about something and maybe there's some not ideal situation, she brings up and I start talking to her about it and I'm like, yeah. I'm like, but look what we gained from this. Like, if you really think about it, it looks this way, but we're gaining so much more in this way, in this way, in this way. Like, this is helping our relationship in this way because we're learning something about each other or whatever. But so if you can always break down what any kind of negative situation to really be tattoo, right? Something that you gain something from. And so I do have grateful tattooed on my on my wrist. I was talking about Amorpha T. Well, we were just talking about gratitude though, but also the tattoo Amorpha T.
You have grateful under it?
Yeah.
Let me see. I don't know how I never saw that. Yeah. But I was talking about Amorpha T.
Yeah. And so Amorpha T is a Latin phrase for the love of one's fate.
Okay.
And it means to look at everything. Every situation in life is either good or necessary. Right. Nothing's bad. And I think about some shit in my life that back in the day, I would have been like, man, that was fucking bad. But no, I'm like, dude, that was just a necessary part of this Joe Adams today, and I'm proud of who I am. So
the thing is, without the bad or the negative, you wouldn't be able to recognize or identify what's good.
100%.
You won't. And like I always say, it could be worse. I know people hate that when they're going through a situation, they hate to hear that. It could be worse.
Yeah.
But the reality of the fact is, you're right. It could be worse. It's bad, but it actually could be worse.
It's not to dismiss how you feel.
I say that all the time too, man.
It's not to dismiss how you feel when you say it could be worse. It's to give you perspective.
Yeah.
And to your point, the other thing I was going to bring up real quick is that you were talking about how you're so focused on like what the struggle is that you're going through right now or whatever. I think about a cousin of mine who just he's got a great heart and he's trying and et cetera. I won't go through the whole thing, but he's got legal stuff that he's dealing with, and he's got 3 kids that he doesn't really see a lot, and he's got so much shit going on, And so whenever I talk to him about this kind of stuff, the thing that I have gone back to several times, and I'm like, dude, you have to, because of course it's mindset, dude. Especially once you get into that kind of hole where it's like I've told him as well, like it took you a long time to get to this point. It's going to take you a long time to get out, but the good news is that it's on you still.
It's on you.
Just like it was you that got you here, it's you that can get you out. But you have to understand, you got to put your head down and it's going to take a couple years before you start to see this stuff change because it took you a long time to get here. But to that point too, I tell him like, because it's all on you, the mindset and the mentality and everything that we're talking about is the most important. Like until you want to change, until you want to, and now he listened, like we were talking about earlier, when you want to listen, I'll be here type situation. When he's been in parts of his life where he wasn't that, I couldn't really deal with it because it's like, I'm not going to waste my time. I'm tired of telling you stuff. And then next week I hear, that you got arrested for something like, so it's not that that I hate you or anything, but when you're ready, right? So now whenever I talk to him, he sits quietly, listens, and it's making it a positive impact, which I'm really excited about. But my point being is that one of the big things I tell him to your point is, when you're feeling like so overwhelmed by it and and whatnot, it makes sense because there's so much going on at one time. Yeah. But if you could just zoom out and realize that you're 26 years old and that if you could get this taken care of, if you could get this tightened up, if you could get your life in order, even if it takes you a couple years, even if it takes you 4 years, let's say 5 years, you look up and you have a job that you actually like and you live somewhere you want to live and you're spending more time with your kids and all your legal troubles are behind you. Let's say it takes 5 years. So you're 30 years old. Like, you know what I mean? Like you're so caught up in the pressure and the just overwhelming darkness and there's just this huge mountain to climb. You're so caught up in that you don't even take the first step and you don't realize that if you would zoom out, there's a lot of your life. This is only a little tiny part.
Like these experiences you're going to need. You know why you're going to need these experiences? Because you're going to be able to utilize these experiences to relate to someone else.
Exactly.
And help them when they're in their experiences. Because we're around broken people all the time. And the trait of most broken people is that they always point the finger at everything else outside of themselves.
Exactly.
And they have to get to a point to where they're like, oh, you know what? It's me. And when you get to that point, it's me. That's the point when you're climbing out of the hole.
In the mirror.
Yep. You're climbing out of the hole but it takes us a while. It takes us a while because we're always looking at the circumstances. We're always looking at externally. And people around you can affect things that happen to you, of course. But at the end of the day, you have to deal with you.
At the end of the day.
Because you can't force anything of anybody else. If we live in a situation where we get so frustrated because we want to force things to happen, we want to force things to do this, force. Well, we have no ability to just force anybody else to do anything. We can only deal with ourselves. So if we use that energy instead of trying to force and manipulate everything around us, we use it on ourselves, then we'd be far more productive. And that's 100%. The lesson that you have to learn when you fall on your face over and over again.
100%.
You have to learn. I think that may be me.
Oh yeah, I know. Where are we at on time?
Yeah, we got about, let's just say we got 10 minutes left.
Well, I mean, I know he's got to get going too.
That's my wife.
Yeah,
my ringer's off, but it's still ringing.
Okay. Well, if we're done, then we can be.
Well,
done.
We can always revisit this another time down the road. Yeah. Sound good?
Yeah, sound great.
Hell yeah. And what you were saying though is like sharing because I'd like to talk more on this stuff too. It's really cool, and we got quite a bit of your story, and we're digging into some
and you'll be able to get some questions formulated for next time.
Hey, man,
too.
I mean, a lot of this falls in line with it. I mean, at the end of the day, like this conversation right here is so much more valuable, but that's what At the end of the day, this is what we're doing here on this podcast, is sharing those experiences for people to relate to. And really, I mean, the shit that we talk about on here can help individuals because it's all relatable to everybody. And so that's what's really cool. But
so Brandon,
anyways.
if you would like to give a signing off message, and then we will be out of here.
All right. Well, the key thing I think the theme of this, so we've been going, is nobody's alone in their experiences. This is all the human experience. So never think you're alone. You're the first one going through anything, and realize that it's everything that affects you. Every experience is something you can attain. Either you can attain it to better yourself, or you can use this experience to help someone else and develop relationships with other people to help them through experiences. Because it's just, we need one another. We're here as a group of people, as humans. And a lot of times we deal with a lot of divisive things that go on around us. And we get in these moments to where we all want to just argue and divide over different disagreements. But at the end of the day, every person is valuable. And what makes us valuable is our experiences that makes us valuable. Right. Because, those are the things that somebody that I know has gone through something, and I haven't gone through it, or I'm going through it, or potentially can go through it, they are a valuable person to me, because that experience can always give me something that I may not have to go through the same mistakes. Or if I do go through something, I can relate and understand what helped another person get through. So we always got to look at each other as valuable human beings, no matter what status, no matter what somebody's accomplished. And we've got to live better with each other and understand each other, because this is all the struggle. Everybody struggles every day, and just to different intensities with different issues. Rich people's struggles may be different than poor people's struggles, but
it's still a struggle.
It's the same kind of issues. And rich people, very successful people, commit suicide every day just as very much as poor people do. So it's not a matter of status. It's a human condition that we all have to deal with, and we just need to sympathize with each other, be patient with one another, and be helpful, and realize that when we're going through something, even though it feels like everything is on us and weighing us down, it's purpose in it. And if we focus, we will get something out of it, and it'll make us better for the people around us in the process. So that's the note, because this is kind of where the direction went today.
Oh, yeah. My man, Brandon Curry, I appreciate you, bro. Thank you for coming on. Hey, and I know y'all ready to get out of here, so thank you for coming. Hope to have Brandon back sometime soon, and maybe getting some more stuff like this. But thanks again, bro, and see y'all next time.